like that. I beat you in, crank up back too fast. Oh, oh, just like that. I see a dub in my future stats. Oh, I know a place you can go. The doghouse outside my massive abode. It's lovely, it's cushy, and sometimes it's cold. And watch me get this gold. Oh, I just want it all. I just want it all.
We open your business, we ain't stopping, yo, it's time to go, let's get it. Whole squad, get ready now, let's go all out, let's win it, win it. We gon' get the bag, we gon' get the loot, and if we gotta fight, you're gonna get the boot. Nowhere to hide, when we in pursuit, we the champions, y'all can't dispute. Let's go and fuck the top.
Fortnite fam, welcome to the FNCS. It's been so long. We've missed you guys so much. We are back. This is major number 2. Get ready, get hyped, because this is the FNCS. We're back, baby! We're back! Oh my gosh, look at their faces. Look at them. They're so excited to be back as well. Fortnite fam, it is great to be with you. Kelly, Vivid, how are you guys feeling?
Oh, I'm good. We got a new major. There's a new me. I'm trying the standing desk. And obviously, we have a lot of Fortnite coming your way over the next 3 days, Vivid. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And hopefully, we can get one of these high elimination games that we got to see from EU earlier on today.
Fortnite just happens way too fast, man. You're mentioning it. Yeah, we have a bunch of action that's going to be happening over the next 3 days, but just fast forward all the way to next weekend as well. Just over the next course of these 10 days, we're going to be already through major number 2, and something kind of clicked in my head earlier, and I think it clicked in Levin's head as well as we were watching EU. He was like, listen, you know, it hasn't really necessarily set into our heads that, hey, listen, there's no major number 3 this year. There's no third opportunity for any of these teams to kind of clutch up on the back half of the year to actually make their way to the global championship. So major number 2, man, all these players, they got to deliver.
It's true, bro. It goes fast. And now here we are getting ready to kind of look at what we're going to be seeing here. We're here for 3 days. In case you didn't know, we have a beautiful graphic lined up for you. Let's check out that format. We started with kind of like an open format, and then here we are, the group stages. So 3 heats. We're playing 5 games every day. It's very simple, right, Kelly? You get a victory royale. That takes you to next weekend's finals, or you need to end in the top 10.
That's right, and that is going to be making up 45 out of the 50 duos that we'll be seeing in the finals. But of course, we still have 5 more teams to find, and that's where the last chance qualifiers comes through. And it's open to any division, so it really does bring home that opportunity that anyone can make it to the grand finals. But we're going to have 5 teams there, and that will wrap up the total 50 that we'll see next weekend.
Before we get to next weekend, Zeke already talked about it. We got to make our way through the group stage. And I love kind of comparing these heats whenever we get an opportunity, this type of a format. So heat number 1 that we're going to be watching here today, let's go ahead and see how this entire lobby stacks up. FNCS finals, we're going to have a total of 274. FNCSNs, we're going to have a total of 9. But the stat here that I actually think is the most interesting, you can see right here, new duos is going to be 41. And pretty much what this means is that we have 41 duos that basically did not play together in major number 1. Remember how just a moment ago I kind of mentioned it, me and Levin kind of had this realization that we're already in major number 2. Yeah, it kind of feels like one of these last opportunities to perform on the year, make your way over to the global championships, which is why we saw so many changes coming in to this major, because they want to make sure that who they are paired up with, they're going to be good.
Well, there was a lot of changes that has happened over the last couple of weeks, but obviously we got to talk about the meta changes that we've seen. And for me, I typically think of the glider deploy, how that has changed, not just the way that we move throughout the game at the start, but the op spawn situations, Vivid, have just become that much more pivotal, that much more important with this new the glider redeploy.
Yeah, but then we still see the typical like land on top of some building, go for a chest, everything like that. But what actually happens is it's so much more committal, because once you go ahead and clutch your glider, you're committed already. But of course, you have to go ahead and clutch your glider to compete at all. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the loadouts we can expect for some of our teams this weekend too, right? Speaking about the meta, it's pretty much all going to be pistols and shotguns, or maybe some of our players will prefer to go ahead and swap out the pistol for an SMG sometimes. But outside of just this 2-weapon meta, they're pretty much going to be carrying in 3 pieces of utility, one of which will almost always be overdrive grenades, and that's going to be followed up with 2 pieces of heals, whether that be chug jugs, mini splashes, whatever our players can actually go ahead and find. And we kind of saw this in Major number 1. We saw it at the Summit. These overdrive grenades, they're so good in the end game, right? Kind of allowing our teams to actually play for the higher ground, control higher ground in any which way that they deem possible. That being said, though, Zeke, it gives plenty of opportunity for any of our teams that are not on the high ground to instantly use those overdrive grenades and kind of fly up the high ground. So keep your eye on high ground throughout the day.
That's so sick. You guys said this word changes. That has me just like,
wait,
there's
changes.
so many.
Zeke, wait, did you just say changes? You want to talk about production? You already know. You guys want to talk about changes, huh? Listen, I've been dealing with so many changes, I had to change my board, okay? It's got wheels now. All right, so just to remind everyone real quick, on the right, if they have a red string connecting 2 pictures together, that means that they have competed in an FNCS Grand Finals or just this season, a Div Cup Finals. If they have a star on their head, no, it's not like Zeke. That means that they have won a Grand Finals. Now, as you can see, I've tried to organize the board just a little bit. On this side right here, these are all the teams plus Josh and Iamzo that have stuck together since Major 1. Now, let's start with the top. We got Poyo and Peterbot. And let me just say, after Major number 1, I was a little worried if they were going to be sticking together. But of course, we saw that solo polo performance at the Summit Land, and then they pull out the Magnus Carlsen for the Reload Elite Series 4. I mean, these guys have never looked better, and they already have their spot at the Global Champions. And actually, Vivid, there is a common theme between all 4 of these teams right here. What would that be? Yes, they all here have made it into the Global Championships, and obviously there is a theme here that if you make it to the Global Championships, well, you might just be sticking together. But there is an outlier here, and that's Craze and Kingling, and they made it to the Global Championships without playing in Major 1. And it's an interesting story how we got there. Craze and Booga initially were playing together in Major 1, but then they had to go through the second chance qualifier. But just days before the second chance qualifier, Booga drops Craze for Aviv, his old teammate, and Aviv is playing with Kingling. So Kingling and Craze play together, go through the second chance qualifier, make it to the finals, go through the bottom bracket, and then get 6th place at the Summit Land to make their way to the Global Champions. Now, obviously, this is an incredible story, but it's not the same story for Booga. Oh no, Zeke, I thought this was over for him. He posted a sad Jake Gyllenhaal tweet and everything. I thought he was going to retire. But you know, as they say, in the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. But we haven't had a jungle biome in the game for years, so this lion is awake and roaring right now. And he goes through the final Reload Elite Series, coming out in 4th place and finding his spot to EWC. But of course, he can't do it alone. Oh no, he plays with Braids. That's right, everyone. Braids. You know, as in visuals and Braids, the longest lasting unbroken duo playing together since Chapter 4. Isn't them splitting up a sign of the apocalypse? Shouldn't we be worried? But regardless,
yes.
Booga plays with Braids, and that means that we have visuals playing with Threats. And Threats was originally playing with Veer, who ends up playing with Aviv, who is the person that Booga originally left him for. How you doing, Zeke? How you doing, Vivid? You guys good?
Yeah, I'm out of breath, and I'm not even talking.
Okay, good, because we haven't even gotten started yet. So, oh wait, do you guys see that? Is that a silver lining in the sky? Oh my gosh, everyone! It looks like Kanata and Victor V are coming back from the West Coast. Let's go! They're bringing their crowns with them, and they're going to show everyone together what the Best Coast means. Is what I would love to say if they were still together. But of course, no, they're not together. No, instead, Kanata is playing with Sphinx. And hey, Vivid, who is Victor V playing with again?
ZPV and Queasy.
Crazy! Global rating champ Queasy is playing with Victor V because why not? Why wouldn't he be? Oh, speaking of reigning champs, where's NAC's reigning champs? Oh, that's weird. They're here and here. Right, they broke up because why wouldn't they? Venno and Curve don't have a good performance at the Summit Lane, so Curve ends up playing with Higgs. And initially I was like, Higgs, wait, that means that Clicks and Higgs broke up after this long run. And you know what you might be saying? I thought that Higgs and Rapid were going to be playing together. You know, they have this dynamic duo so many years ago where they're just like Sherlock Holmes and Watson, or Goku and Vegeta, or Robin and that one guy I can't remember right now. And I know what you're thinking, guys. Wait, Rapid, wasn't he playing with Cold? Didn't they do really well? Didn't they win a Div Cup Finals? Yep. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. But regardless, Clicks and Rapid are now playing together. Oh, wait, that's weird. What is... There's something on Rapid's picture? It's a bag. Well, what's... Oh. Well, I guess it just makes sense when you play with Clicks. Okay, everyone, jokes aside. There's an elephant in the room that I need to talk about. Last time, I might have gone a little overboard about a certain content creator, and maybe someone from Epic said that I'm not allowed to show any more pictures of Faxity. but they didn't say anything about drawings. Now, listen, I know you all think that I'm crazy, but there are too many questions going unanswered right now, and you guys need to start asking some questions, all right? I know everyone's trying to hold me down, but I will not be silent.
Okay. Thank you, production. I don't know what she's talking about. That's the nope. We're gonna go to the casters. Let's say what's up, Jacob. PRMDF, save us!
I'm not sure I can save you at all, Z, because I really feel that Kelly might be onto something, but bring you back down to earth. 150 teams qualified for the heat stages. We're going to be seeing 50 of those teams today.
Yeah, definitely. And well, the lobby list is going to give us a sample of the board, obviously, as teams have mixed it up, and we have a whole new entire Heat 1 here to look at. My gosh, what a competition, right? What a way to set things off, as of course we are looking at this lobby list here. I mean, we have Cole to look at today. We get treated with some Buzz gameplay here a little later. I mean, Jacob, I'm looking forward to a fun competition here today.
Yeah, it's definitely, you kind of look at this Heat and you look at total finals appearances. They might not necessarily have as much as the other Heats, but you look at the names. You mentioned Muzz and Rise. You even got visuals and threats. The other half of the team that Kelly was talking about with Braids, they have been performing incredibly well recently, but we could talk about these 50 teams all day. But let's hear from the voices we know and love, Zeke.
Sorry about that, everybody. Some technical difficulties. I didn't see anything. You didn't see anything. It's cool. Let's talk about some of the players we're gonna see here in the Heats. Let's talk about Ritual and Cold. Now, I know what you're thinking. Zeke, you didn't say Agers. You didn't say Rapid. You said Ritual and Cold. Yes, Timmy. We are back to the era of Ritual and Cold. I cannot believe this is the duo that is formed. Kelly, I don't even know. I don't know if I can handle the level of intensity and excitement I have right now.
You say you can't handle it, but we actually got to see a little bit of Ritual and Cold at the start of the year, or actually at the start of Season 7, Chapter 7, when they announced that we were going from trios to duos. This was actually one of the first duos that formed once we found out that Peterbot and Poyo were going to go back to a duo. So to see them reform once again, they already have that synergy, they already have a good rapport with each other, and obviously both Cold and Ritual can bring so much to the plate. We know that Ritual is going to be more of the IGL, but he can still bring that fragging power.
Amongst all of the chaos that Kelly was able to kind of explain to us amongst some of these duos, right? We kind of lost a little bit of focus there amongst the sense that Cold and Rapid are actually a Reload Elite Series qualified team, right? They're actually already going over to the LAN. So the fact that Rapid and Cold have actually split up, but they still have to kind of commit to one another. But when it comes down to specifically Battle Royale, we're going to be seeing Cold and Ritual. But I think this kind of makes sense. I mean, Cold and Rapid, we expected so much of them over at the Summit. I actually had them as one of the favorites to win it, but they went ahead, they picked up 18th place, and you got to imagine that they just weren't happy with that. So a change was necessary is what they kind of deemed. And yeah, excited to kind of return to this Cold and Ritual duo.
Oh man, I'm such a fan of both these players individually. Bring it together, we got ourselves a powerhouse duo. Let's talk about another duo here. It's Josh and Yamza. We've already kind of seen them compete, but now here we are once again staying strong. How do we feel about this duo and that experience, right? They've kind of continued to build up their skill set together, and now they're looking to make sure they can bring that to this weekend's Heats.
I mean, between this duo, Josh and Ionzo, they have been performing so well since the start of the year. The real kind of hitch in their plans has been their off-spawn situation with Reet and Cooper. But between the two of them, they have been just performing incredibly well. They're actually one of the only duos from Major 1 that have remained together that didn't qualify to the Global Champions. And I think that to me means so much more. They already have so much established. They've already understand what each brings to the table. So by sticking together, they're just going to be able to add on that even more.
Very, very excited to see these guys kind of return to the stage. But remember how I kind of mentioned it, that Cold and Rapid, they weren't necessarily happy with their Summit performance. I mean, you got to imagine that Josh and Yamza, they probably weren't happy with it as well, as they went ahead and picked up 45th place. But I like the fact that they went ahead and stuck together. I myself have personally always been a big favorite of any of these teams that kind of opt to go ahead and stick it out. Because listen, you guys have already practiced for half of the year as it already stands. You guys are already a dominant Reload Elite Series team that's already qualified to that specific LAN. And I just like this from Josh and Yamza, kind of opting to stick together.
I love it. I love it. Really quickly, we want to also highlight Muzz and Rise. We weren't kidding. We were talking about changes and shakeup. Muzz and Rise. It's no longer Muzz and Sphinx. Well, talk to me about this duo. This is one that shocked me.
I mean, once again, a team that played together during trios, so they still have that synergy. They have good communication, but they did just form, like a week or 2 weeks ago. So there might be a little bit of growing pains that we're going to see, but it's Muzz and Rise. I can't imagine them having too much trouble in heats.
I mean, actually, the last couple of times that we've seen Muzz and both Rise, even if they have not been on the team, these guys consistently got top 10 when it comes down to FNCS finals. So them kind of joining up here, I feel like it makes sense. I'm excited to kind of see how and, which way they're going to actually qualify to finals, because I feel like they're a shoe.
I like to hear that, Viv. Friends, it is that time. We are getting ready to kick off heat number 1. Remember, we need to get a victory royale, which auto-qualifies us to finals next weekend, and that's it. We're done. We don't need to play anymore. Or we need to aim for consistency and end in the top 10 to move on, or we're taking it to the last chance lobby. For now, we're getting ready to board that battle bus. So, casters, take it away.
We're excited to get right into the action here, Jacob. Obviously, jumping season to season. This time, things are looking very exciting as we're kicking off the heats here soon.
Yeah, you kind of got that similar shockwave meta, so not too much has changed outside of the duos themselves and maybe some POIs as well. But a name that we might see today all the way from EU, I'm excited to watch Moneymaker and F9. We talked about the Venos, the Queasies. This is a team that I think has been showing up as of recently. Before we get in the game, they're going to be contested center of the map as well, so they got a fight ready for them right out of the gates. But game 1 is ready, and let's start the day.
Here we have it. Game 1 is here. It's going to be 5 short games today. And, if you get a victory royale, you're cutting yourself an early evening here. However, we still have consistency to look forward to as well. So heat formats bringing us a little bit of everything here as we start things off early here with some contested drops over at the Latte Landing, as there are several teams looking to make a stay.
Yeah, 2 teams just straight up, pure Kraken. Looks like Clout and Claps just taking 2 different sides, so a different and a slower approach to the game. But Moneymaker F9 from EU, like I said, these guys have won a game in eBound finals. They've proven they could kind of top with the best of them on NA, but Moneymaker gets it down onto 1. He instantly gets down right back. At this drop spot monster, there's not a lot of chest and floor loops, so you kind of got to use whatever you get granted. And right now, Zara's popping that HP to try to get it back on up. F9's going for the revive, and this is where it comes down to a 1v1.
Oh, little hesitation there, though. He actually missed the pickup almost for a second, but he ends up getting it. Is the distraction enough? It's not, as Moneymaker gets taken down here by the hands of Zaris. And just like that, all that travel to get turned down here in game number 1, they're going to have to hit the drawing board.
It's like Zaris and the Guzzle Juice, forgot it there for a moment, really pays off. He has 150 HP and shield, a huge mismatch. Even when he gets Moneymaker back up, the instant knock. And just look at the loadout. Chaos Reloader, Rapid Fire SMG, literally with playing in sticks and stones, is able to clutch up.
Yeah, sometimes the distraction is just enough. This time, it is not going to be it. Ritual Cold, of course, the team that we are going to have our eyes on. Cold has been continuing to do exactly what he does, just kind of disappears from the spotlight every time we're in the off season. But when it comes around to playing under and on the big stage, we already know he shows up every single time. We're expecting a big performance there. Jumping over to the other side, though, Jacob. Got a little lurk play, possibly getting set up here.
Yeah, you're kind of seeing the differences from drops at POIs and some of those buildings that have a ton of loot, and then these kind of side drops here. And honestly, Fly and Trey, they do got that 1 elimination, but if you look at their loadout, at what cost did it really have? And a lot of the attention you see in Heatwave Harbor, that one has a bunch of players there contested between 2. Hottie and Noise are going to be on the western edge, so this is definitely going to be a tough position for Fly and Trey. They almost probably feel like they're in desperation mode, needing to lurk around and get an elimination here.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what happens sometimes, right? You chase players out kind of desperately off to the side of the drop there, and all of a sudden now you lose kind of your rotate, right? You lost the plot. But jumping over to JoJo, Aoxy, what's going on over here is they're just getting situated right now. Talk about a fast track to max mats here. Love to see it for JoJo and Aoxy. The split is working out very well. This is a team that, consistently plays very well under heat settings. Obviously, no strangers to an FNCS format, let alone a set lobby. So, Aoxy and JoJo, we are thinking, if nothing else, will be making their way through consistency here tonight.
Yeah, this is one of those teams, you know, you're mentioning. I feel like they can fly under the radar. They're one of the teams that have their EWC spot already secured, and we know how difficult that actually was. So uncontested here, good start to the game for them. But you see on the other side of the map, not all those blessings can go around. Adi's going to be stuck by himself, but it is going to be a short 1v1 as he takes down Shore, wins the fight. They have 3 eliminations as a team, so you got to imagine, even with your teammate going down, you have to be feeling very, very confident when it comes to that Storm Surge.
Packing quite the punch there with the shock, and just goes to swap it out there, get the quick reboot now. Hopefully it doesn't set them too far back, but hey, you're winning your drop, you're earning your respect here. That's what matters. Ace Cube, VLEX doing the same exact thing here, just north of the harbor. Vivid said it best with the loadout preferences, right? This pistol coming in big play here.
Yeah, typically in the past, you kind of see a lot of the AR for the damage in the distance, but this pistol, especially if you're one of these tier 1 pro players, you kind of have the accuracy, you're able to kind of hold it in the distance like you're seeing Doxy there. You can definitely deal a ton of damage, and that's why you're seeing either Stinger SMG or kind of these pistols run the lobby for the most part. Besides that, you do see typically the Warforged, the Burst AR, but not as common as the other weapons, but still very, very early on in the game right now. Teams still trying to rotate around and try to figure out where the best spot is for zone.
Rise, definitely a team that puts in a ton of prep. We watch it throughout the scrims all week long. And now it's just down to execution here. See the quick stat, as Muzz hasn't missed a single regional FNCS final since Chapter 2 of Season 7 of 2021. This is that preparation that we talk about. And what's really crazy about Muzz is, you know, he's gone through these ebbs and flows, right? He knows what it's like to almost be at the peak, then hit the lows, and then fight your way back to the top of the conversation. And Muzz has just been consistent, especially in the last couple of years. But let's get into the action over here. Into the storm we go.
Yeah, you got to be careful, though. This is a 2v2 fight going down, but coming into the west side of the map, a possible third party to try to interrupt all the fun that's going down. Pluto just pausing here. Just letting that team disengage. Doesn't want to take an ill-advised fight, or at least continue it, getting too greedy. But CDZ and Nut, the sneak play is in. He's able to create a little bit of distance, but he still takes some damage. No big pots there, so he's going to be capped at the amount of HP and shield he's going to get back. And you see they're taking that as an opportunity while one's healing. They're trying to 2v1 the other. Use the numbers to their advantage.
That definitely goes for the edit. The pre-fire was good, right through the window, and gets the knock. And now the aggression as he needs to capitalize on this moment. Of course, they get the finish, so that's going to give him a little bit more time. That other duo, though, taking pop shots here in the distance. Now a team's decided they want to jump in, possibly get in on the mix. CDZ and Nut have to think twice about whether or not they want to take a clean 2-on-2, and it seems like that other team backs off. They're going to give them the space that they want.
Yeah, you can kind of see the zone moving on over towards the north, the eastern side, so a lot of traffic could end up here, especially fighting for those mending machines. A team in Sunken Shore is already on that. Pluto's just trying to close the gap. He is literally on a clock, less than 5 seconds. If he doesn't find at least an apple in a crate, he's going to go down, but he escapes this fight here where Nut and CDZ are still going crazy, landing shot after shot here. Doesn't matter what duo is right in front of them, and it does look like Pluto did actually end up going down. He did not find the lucky heal, and that's all because of Nut and CDZ's third party to start this whole altercation.
Yeah, first thing I was thinking was like very smart, dip into the building, try to find something quick to heal with, but luck was not on his side. CDZ and Nut, though, do have things under control here. It seems like because Nut's down and low on material count, they're actually going to call for the disengage. A little too much action happening here for CDZ and Nut. They're going to take their small win, but that's a big setback on the clock there as they have exhausted all their heavy materials here. Pretty late into the early game. Diminished. Javi on the other side, though. Here's a team that NA Central has definitely been looking at and talking about. Javi in particular, as he's continued to kind of earn his name, right, amongst the elite players here.
Yeah, and just because of the format, you know, teams did for 8 spread around. You're not going to get every single finalist in one lobby. So Javi and Diminished is kind of using that as an opportunity. They're not even landing at their actual drop because the Acorn and Bolts aren't in this lobby. They're landing at Frosted Flats. So they're just taking advantage of the format, the heat stages, really doing their homework. To look on board visuals and threats from New Sanctuary. They haven't had to rotate long from Cluster Coast, but they immediately get in toward that edge of zone. With it's already pulling down towards the south, the eastern edge as well. They're just hoping a lot of the teams that are still around Sunken Shores, that are still around the west side of the map, rotate in slowly, and that's how they're going to try to get their surge. Because uncontested, you got to imagine where they're at now.
Yeah, the main benefit, of course, to being uncontested is you have all the time to stick to your strat, get to those key positions, and then be the thorn in the side for everyone else who has to make their lane rotates. For those that are contested, I mean, depending on how prepared the opponents are around you, it'll be that much more difficult. We'll see how things develop here shortly. Jargu, Carillion, gonna set up a bit of a lurk here, Jacob. You have Donnie's team in the distance. You have Carlitos and Yuki up top, already in their surge base. Jargo and Carillion actually have 2 eliminations here as well.
Yeah, this is a team that, you know, they were fighting visuals and threats at the Clustered Coast. Again, seeing some different drops that they're trying to take advantage of here. They already have the 2 eliminations. I got to imagine it was because of that contested drop. And Carillion is somebody that, when he gets in a fight, you almost feel like he can win it against almost everybody. I've seen him take 1v2s against Peterbot and Toyo as well. So this is kind of a team that is starting to resurge as one of the teams on the region. But CDZ, they end up one fight after another. They return back to their contested drop spot at Heatwave Harbor, trying to go for the HP and the loot that we were talking about earlier. They end up against another team, and now they're just better off than they were seconds ago.
Just full loadout upgrade as well. So talk about getting delivered some goods here at the drop, and I guess the risk ends up paying off for them. A big amount of eliminations here is just going to give them the confidence that they're looking for, but I'm thinking they might have the recipe for success to play for a victory now. We'll just see if they don't stay in the zone for too much longer. Krypton and Webster on the other side, going for a bit of a dead side rotate as they're looping very wide around the outskirts here.
You can see another one of those mythics. This right here with the burst AR, it does drop from one of the bosses. And where I was talking about the difference between the pistols, the SMGs, this one is almost a must-have. No matter if you're better with the pistol or not. Deals a ton of damage and an increased fire rate boost, but for them, they're just taking a slow approach, run into as little people as possible while they ride the zone and try to make their way in. Ritual and Cold, they're literally just a few steps away, but with that shockwave, they just want to close the amount of time they're out in the open, so that way they don't even take a single lick of damage. You see Cold already weak, having to dig deep into his bag of Chug Jugs.
It's about the 3rd or 4th duo now we're seeing as well, running the double Chug Jug along with the shockwave loadout. They're both going to go on to do that. Ritual, Cold, might be looking to set up the fight here. This is going to be a fight they're going to have to take, right? Think about that surge damage and how things are going to start to, of course, add up and take effect. Dozier and Ishu, here's a team that has been consistently working hard in the background as well. They're slightly above the damage surge threshold. This is I would say more than enough cushion for this first zone, but they're going to need a fight a little later into the game, undoubtedly.
Yeah, they're coming all the way from Lifty Lodge, and honestly, 291, considering they are uncontested, probably taking advantage of the 2 contested fights around them. And Dozier and Ishu, Macha, they are first in the play-ins on the overall leaderboard, which is how they landed here in heat number 1. And again, they go towards Lifty Lodge, uncontested. They work their way south on the map. They have launch pads and multiple mending machines to hit, just like you're seeing here on their way there. They just got to hope nobody's boxed up, ready to fight, because that's what we do see with a lot of the teams that do have access, but 10 below. Oh, big shot's gonna fire. That's gonna push them 112 below. Free Swag just trying to create some extra space. Another Mythic in play. He lands that first shot, gets the box up, gets the knock onto Evan. Perfectly played for him to stay alive, but with his teammate going down, brings it into a 1v1. He desperately needs that siphon or any bit of HP here.
Tough. He couldn't get the conversion there to keep him in the game. Free Swag was flexing for a moment there, but even with that exceptional loadout, the pressure from Gary, it's going to be enough to go ahead and win the exchange in the end. Either way, we'll be keeping tabs on them. This is just game 1. Got to get the jitters out sometimes. Zonda and Okus on the other side. Talk about the return of Okus here as he's dipping his toes back in the Fortnite waters right now. 2 damage below. Not too bad, but remember, it's all about how you trade in exchange. So right now, they're just going to need to do some damage and stay out of harm's way.
Yeah, it's just going to be tough because even if they do get damage here, pretend they end up 300 above the damage threshold. They almost got a max pull, so taking shockwaves and rotations like this is literally just going to leave you vulnerable, but you almost have no choice in the matter as they're quickly just trying to make their way on over. No shots connecting onto them, but they know since they are so far back on this zone, they have to be picky and choosy for moments like this because you pause too long, you might hit a couple of shots, but then you bring the attention onto yourself later on in the same rotation.
Oh, yeah. But this is a nice, clean rotate. Look at that, thread in the needle here, cutting straight through the middle of the pack. Normally, you'd get punished big time for that, but the nice little line of sight breakage there from all the other duos, they traveled a lot of distance here. 146 below as things start to update here. They went from pretty bad to now worse. They're slipping behind if they can't find themselves in a little bit of action here shortly. Just got the high ground. Looks like Pentabot's up top, but eyes are on Ocus here. 165 below now. They're getting tagged by everyone here. It seems like the high ground team is recognizing that they were in a bit of a desperate situation there. And since their second height, it's like they're posing a threat to height. So they're almost asking for that team to focus on them.
Yeah, and another, I wouldn't call it max pull. The players on the south side of the zone got that, but it's definitely going to be a tough one, especially since you're 34 below. Active surge, every 7 or so seconds, 25 damage, and you don't get knocked. You go out of the game altogether. Cold and rapid, we saw them below the damage threshold. We thought they were going to fight, but they did not take it. And even though it's only 7 below, Ritual could peek out, land a shotgun shot from a far distance to get himself above. He knows this next zone, he will once again fall below, so he needs to play it perfect.
It's really interesting, right? They had 2 full chug jugs when we first tuned in with them, and a team right next door. They could have took the fight, but they also could have just waited it out the way that they did right here, given how much heals they had and try to get damage on the rotate. But in the end, it doesn't pay off, and it seems like that might have been the wrong call. And now they're going to also get sent to the lobby. And this is long before we're talking real placement points, right? The meaningful back half of the end game is still yet to come here. There's 30+ teams alive.
Yeah, 6 of them need to go down before you even get the beginning of those placement points. Half of them are in the top 10, and then you get into the meat potatoes top 5, top 3 situation. As we jump on board the boys from Elite, Yamzo and Josh, 400 damage above. They land at Wonky Land, so not too far of a journey for them so far, but a whole nother team trying to push their way in. Josh fires the shot, but he takes one right back, 55 damage, and the spray is coming in, so they're trying to build some extra space to alleviate this pressure.
Playing very smart here. Of course, Yamzo buying Josh a little bit of room as well, swapping over to the metal. They are base down extremely strong. Looking from the top down, though, you can see players now starting to kind of hover and congest themselves around a little bit of land that is still in play here as things are going towards the coast of the Golden Grove. Kaz, Noah plays, making an appearance right now. Can they fight their way to another finals?
16 above. This is like those mental games. You almost want to pad the stats to make sure you don't have to worry about it, but all it takes is one shot being fired back to put you below that damage threshold. They're able to pressure that team out from underneath. Kind of makes it a little bit safer, one less thing to worry about. But if you look off in the distance, right now, Hobby and Aminish is the first team that is starting to build up and look like they're trying to claim that high ground.
Got Buzz Rise opting to play ultimate low right now. They have enough damage to kind of weather the storm here. They have the luxury of taking their time on these rotates as well, but they go with their early jump here now. Plenty of time to look around and to start to affect the rest of the lobby, download the information that they can continue to play a strong end game here and rotate without taking unnecessary fights or damage. Let's look back to the high ground. Let's look at Javi and Aminish. What's the situation looking like? You can tell already the commitment with the metal big base here is telling us that they are confident in playing this one out right now, and they're pretty determined to put in work from the high ground.
Yeah, they're even building the makings of a semi-surge base up here, just making sure nobody can safely shockwave up and try to contest them in the clouds. They have a good amount of shockwaves for this next zone, but they get it relatively close to them. They don't have to worry about shockwaving out. They just got to worry about maintaining their composure against Power and Penta, who are also building up. It's 2 teams trying to battle each other out to try to claim that high ground. Power and Penta are a little bit closer to where the zone is going to go, so Hobby and Aminish are trying to focus them down, distract them to hopefully they go down altogether.
Not gonna lie, we'll just have to jump back into that in a second because Buzz is cooking down here. He's already picked up an elimination here in the end game and then destroying players on the outer edge. You know those refreshes are gonna come very much welcomed. But look at this, Javi and Aminish didn't like the pressure that was coming in from Penta and Power. They end up giving it up here as they kind of play this second hype, but we know that once you concede the ultimate high ground, you are the target. And they switch on over to Wood, so this is all telling that players have sort of started to gas out here, but Power, Penta, with just 27 builds, they're trying to give themselves some more placement points right now.
Yeah, both of those teams really investing a lot to try to claim that high ground. Hopefully it works out for them because we know how one shockwave could change the course of how things are going in the clouds, and they're keeping that pressure onto Javi and Aminish, who are keeping themselves on that second height territory, one shockwave away from being able to contest it overall. And it might have been a smart play. They used all of their material, and so instead of battling it out and maybe a third-party team comes in, we're saying, hey, we'll revisit that topic later. But Penta and Power have not slowed down. But you see the ammo, the medium bullets. Penta is quickly running out here, so there's only a certain amount of pressure he's only going to be able to keep putting out.
That's right. Now jumping down to it's Josh and Yamzo here. A single elim, end games in front of them. They're going to need to fight for a refresher, but hold that thought as Aminish, Javi get into the action here. They also needed to fight for something here, and they end up getting the elims, but is there enough of a refresh? There sure is. Javi finds himself with 400 plus material. Aminish gets a little bit of wood there as well, and they springboard their way to 4 elims and a nice little position here for the end game.
Yeah, all anybody has to do is look up, but for now, Pen and Power smooth sailing, threats and visuals underneath. You can see they haven't really been challenged too much. Almost full chug jugs, materials looking good. Muzz and Rise being forced outside of the zone, tick by tick. They're taking a ton of damage. But Rise and Muzz, Monster is a team that had a bad day one of the play-ins. They made up for it big in day 2, just like Josh, getting back-to-back eliminations on Nut and CDZ.
See it, visuals moving around the outskirts here. Taking a lot of damage there. It's about 30 HP donated to the Storm. Power, though, Penta still haven't given it up, and although they only have a single build here, make it just one right now. Muzz and Rise strike fast here from the outside. He actually gets the knock on the cross there. Rise does as well. He gets the full finish. It's a fight for high ground. Eoxy and Jojo Fishy want a piece of the action as well, and they're going to be the Kingmakers now who actually remain in control.
Yeah, perfectly timed. They're just waiting for the 10th, 11th zone. They know they have the materials and shockwaves, so they just send it up, forcing Muzz and Rise to go back down below with not only missing HP and shield, but the lack of materials that they invested for it all. And now they're getting tagged up in the distance. Hey, Oxy and Jojo Fishy, you can see they're running out of build. Jojo Fishy just has 1 material left. If anybody starts to target out that high ground, it could turn the tables instantly.
Look at this, Rise left by himself as Muzz ends up falling there. Muzz looking to take a fight with the team that's above him. I like the play, but not enough to stay in the storm for it. But there it is, the refresher onto Donnie. Oh, he gets a lot there to work with. Some extra heals, extra mats as well. Jojo and Oxy have already exhausted their builds. They're almost forced to come on down. And everyone that we've jumped in with, Jacob here, does not have material.
Everybody invested so much for the earlier high ground. You're seeing Javi and Minish just kind of stuck down below, recycling builds, but Rise is still going off. 1 elimination, hanging on by a thread, but he's weaving in and out of the builds in a 1v1 against Josh. High ground is pressuring him further and further down, essentially saving Josh here in that moment, but he has the mythic 1-pump shotgun, so he can definitely deal a ton of damage almost any situation he's in, but Rise is still not done just yet. He's running out of materials, but he's putting himself in a good position to look back. Down goes a minute. Rise in a 1v1 against Javi. He gets cut short, but you got to give him an A for effort.
That was so close, bringing Javi down to 30 HP. Slightly bigger of a shot, and he would have had the clutch of his career. But Nojo Aoxy making it look nice and easy, although they have no material. The timing was just brutal to everyone else in the lobby, and they're coasting their way through right now. Flex here has a solo down low. I almost think everyone's a solo here. The pressure's just too much. Flex gets a little bit more points. He's inside the top 3. But Eoxy and Jojo, this is their game to win right now.
Yeah, they just got to go through Jargo and Carillion. Got 7 eliminations down below on the low ground. They're instantly pressuring. They have that mythic pistol. A lot of the new mythics, if you get them in the right player's hands, they deal a ton of damage. Shockwaving up, trying to focus on the Jargo. Bouncing himself out of zone, takes a lot of damage, and that's going to lead to his demise. Eoxy goes down. Jojo Fishy gets one. 1v1 situation. Jargo and Carillion clutch up again.
With the 9 elims at the end there. And not only that, they actually did it from the low ground. Just unprecedented victory royale for themselves there. Talk about a difficult situation to be in. But in the end, Jacob, they end up pulling through.
Yeah, they clutched up to make it to the Summit Land, and now they clutched up again to make it to the Grand Finals. That's game one, Zeke.
Nah. You cannot cut it that close in game number one. Jargu and Carillion, and almost 10 eliminations, 9 to their name again in game one. That is a massive statement, right, guys? You come out and you say, hey, look, we're going to go ahead and win game one. We're going to do it in this fashion. 5 HP.
I mean, what's crazy to me is that we literally have not seen them compete since Major 1. We didn't get to watch the open qualifiers unless you were watching them through a co-streamer. And then we get one game of Jargu and Carillion, and that's it now. We don't get to see them until next week. But honestly, playing that low ground was really smart. We saw Aoxy and Jojo Fishy kind of controlling the high ground, and so I thought that there was just too much chaos on the low ground for anyone to really be able to stick together long enough to fight them in a 2v2. I thought it was all solos on the low ground, but Carillion and Jargu played that mid ground so well, Vivid, that they were able to stay alive all the way to the end.
Without a doubt, just one of those scenarios where it kind of feels like the entire lobby was up against the high ground. I mean, they just had to invest so much to actually go ahead and secure it. Aoxy and Jodo did a great job of securing it, but in the end, they just did not have enough to go ahead and clutch up. And for Carillion and Jargu, man, if you're not necessarily familiar with their names, we can't really blame you, because this will actually be the only third time for each one of these players that have made it to an FNCS finals. I mean, Jacob kind of called it out as well. In Major number 1, they had clutched up there to make it over to the Summit Land, and as it currently stands, these two guys, they're on a hot streak.
It's gotta feel so good right now to start again, because just think, if you're every other duo, you're thinking we're gonna be here for 5 games, we need a victory royale, we need to be consistently. You come out and win game 1, you're like, all right, everybody, see you next weekend. Man, congratulations to them. But of course, more happened in the game. First, a break. When we return, we'll break down what we saw. We'll see you shortly. to heat number 1 of major number 2. It's great to see you. In case you missed out on game number 1, Jargu and Trillium got themselves the first victory royale. That means they don't have to play anymore. They're good. The next thing they have to think about is next weekend's finals. Congratulations once again to them. Of course, though, other things have happened and developed out of just game number 1. We wanted to highlight here for you really fast. Javi and Aminish, almost said the wrong name there. Apologies. Getting so crazy over here. Javi and Aminish, though, did end currently in 3rd place, aka technically 2nd place, right? If you look up, you see the 1,000 points. Don't freak out. It just means they've gone through. So in terms of consistency, right now they're sitting in 2nd place. 4th place with 6 eliminations. That's a pretty strong start, Kelly.
100%. And you know, when we go into these heats, there's this weird dichotomy of, oh, I played one game, I win, and I get to go on. But then we also look to the top 10, and top 10 is relatively easy as far as competitive tournaments go for the cutoff. To make it to the top 10 outside of winning a victory royale, all you need is really 2 good games out of the 5. So for Javi and Aminish to already solidify themselves in 3rd place right now, all they effectively need, Vivid, is one more game, one good game, and then they pretty much have solidified their spot to the grand finals.
Yeah, in major number 1, when we had a similar, what felt like skill level, right? That assess in summary, the amount of like FNCS finals kind of combined to give some sort of a metric to the lobby. This specific lobby here was kind of comparable in the sense that the qualification for that was around 140 points. We'll have to keep a close eye on that. But obviously, like you said, 66 points towards that already for Javi and Aminish. They'll be doing quite well. The high ground was just so crazy, though, Zeke. Obviously, Javi and Aminish were kind of in the mixer, but we had so many other teams kind of going for it, right? We saw Penta and Power up there kind of combating for it, Aoxy and JoJo as well.
Oh my gosh, it was a crazy, right? Everyone's thinking the same thing. We want to make sure we get our spots as quickly as possible. Now, on the flip side, we saw a handful of solo clutch situations, right? I want to highlight 6 plays, Uz and Rise. Rise kind of put in the situation, all right, I'm by myself. I got to try and make something happen. If I can't play for the victory royale, I got to play for maybe even that top 10. But they get a 6th place with 5 elims out of the game, right? Like, that's still really, really good, especially when we're trying to aim for consistency.
Yeah, and when you see that those placement points haven't really started, like, you know, building up yet because there's still 15 teams alive in the lobby, all it is for you is to just survive. Make sure that you're making those placement points. It's a lot harder to be able to get eliminations in a solo run, you know, unless you're like an incredible fragger. So for Rise to be able to do this, kind of stick around the low to mid ground, play on that back end of zone to allow everyone else to rush the front, gave him just more time, more survivability, and that's why we see him at the top of our leaderboard.
Incredible run right there from Rise. Obviously so close in his grasp with just one more single elimination. One more siphon that kind of comes through to keep him alive just a little bit longer. But the margins are close here in major number 1 already. And we've only been through one singular game. So I'm excited to kind of see how this starts to pan out.
Yeah, man. I mean, we have 4 more games just today, and then we have 5 tomorrow and 5 the next day. Crazy stuff. Wanted to highlight as well, Aoxy and JoJo Fishy, they did end 2nd place there with only 3 eliminations. Now, that's not insane, right? But again, if we're trying to be in the top 10, we're trying to aim for consistency, a 2nd place is pretty dang good.
Well, also, I think a lot of these teams need to play towards their strengths and heats. They can't really play the standard finals lobby that we know because this isn't essentially a finals lobby. We're missing 2/3 of the competition. So for them to play to their strengths, going for high ground and not necessarily going for this heavy elimination game that other players are going for. And I really do appreciate that because you can look at that loadout. They have no ammo. They have no builds. They really didn't have anything. So just making sure that no one's really paying attention to them on high ground was probably the best course of action for them.
Love this for Aoxy and JoJo Fishy, though, because they're starting to kind of what feels like pick up some steam here, right? Kind of qualifying to that RES LAN event later on this year. So already they kind of proved themselves throughout this year, but specifically when it comes down to the Battle Royale game mode here, right? They haven't actually been able to make it to a finals this year yet, but they did such a good job last year in trios to go ahead and consistently make it through to the finals, and they placed pretty well there. So the fact that, again, in game number 1, they're starting off pretty good here, I feel like Aoxy and JoJo, man, they're going to be putting themselves on a lot of people's radar.
I like that, right? It's always about building that experience. Continue to put your name out there and highlight, hey, look, we're a duo that deserves respect, so put respect on that name. I'm getting word, though. Game number 2 is ready. We're jumping right back into the action. So, casters, over to you.
You know, game 1 has just showed us that you might be the biggest name in Fortnite, one of the superstars, but you still have to watch out for these up-and-coming players. Not that Carillion is by any means, but another clutch to make it to finals.
Hey, they played it very well. They are you know, again, remaining consistent. These are teams that we know their names, and we know their names for good reason.
Yeah, hopefully game one has all the jitters, the nervousness out of the way for a lot of these teams. You know, Muzz and Rise, I was talking about it through the game. A very, very bad day one in play-ins. They clutched up huge, almost flawless in day two to make it here. And they're basically picking up where they left off. Remember, Rise was so close to an FNCS championship. Muzz has multiple on different regions. And so you take those two players together, and I think we're going to have some success today. It's just all about consistency, though. With game one done, Monster, we still have 4 more.
Yeah, definitely. So again, and the dynamic changes routes around, right? Teams that win, they get punched out for the evening. So the map kind of loosens up a bit. We've seen in the past, if their drop spot is really good, it'll also force other teams to try to mix things up. So let's see what game number 2 has in store for us now.
As Monster was alluding to, Chargu and Carillion punched their ticket directly to the grand finals. They were landing at Sinister Strip, which was already contested. So even though they're no longer in the lobby, they get to watch the rest of the weekend's action. That spot still might have a few names fighting out for it. And it is one of those drops that has a ton of loot. But already you're seeing the shakeups. Moneymaker for Nyan. Contested game 1, Monster. Uncontested here in game 2.
Yeah, definitely. This is going to give them, I think, the little bit of confidence that they need to kind of get back into their groove, right? You talk about a team that obviously have sacrificed a lot, right? Changing their entire livelihood to come on over to NA and try to compete amongst what, you know, this region, of course, has to offer. Not because it's any easier, but because this is the thing you want to do to boost your career, right? As much as anything else. So we will be keeping an eye on them. Jump into, of course, Noisy's team here. And Hottie, you know, they had some success in their early game bouts, but, you know, what we saw last time was that because they chased the team early, they actually didn't get all the loot that they were looking for. And it seems like the split drop is not exactly working for them.
Yeah, you see they just kind of grab some loot, but sometimes when two teams kind of clash in those split drops, but you're seeing over towards Heatwave Harbor from Major 1, Major 2, you see the little duck, it just moved all around from Cluster Coast to Heatwave Harbor. It just adds an extra element, a little bit more loot, and even resource material for metal, so you might see why teams are kind of making it a focal point as Muzz and Rise. They have this whole split drop to themselves, and they want to keep it that way. Free swag on the one side, but Muzz, all he's doing is wasting his time so Muzz can get his teammate Rise here, and they can 2v1.
Yep, there it is, little knock there from Rise finding a side angle, and you know, Rise is just continuing to put up the numbers here. Just like that, they, I think, make a statement to Free Swag saying, hey, I don't know what you had going on last game, but landing on our drop is not going to work for you either, buddy.
Just helps them out a little bit. Great surge for their early game to go back to business as usual. Set up a surge tower. But with a lot of the contested fights, you see, like, with changing drops, players going for a little bit more of a split drop. They're just trying to avoid the early game fights, so that way they don't take either early game eliminations with their teammate going down or just too much damage. But you see Cold and Ritual all the way from the south side of the Battlewood chasing down a whole team. Bags, Jax, and Dinker. And that's another one of those situations, Monster, where Jax and Dinker, they're like, hey, we're going to land at Battlewood. Hopefully players are too distracted, which how crowded it actually is. 4 teams landing there. But Ritual and Cold, they will not share the south side with anybody. And we saw them go through Peterbot and Poyo, which is why they went back to Sinister Strip.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this is what pro players do. They got to condition the drop, and, you know, it starts with, of course, heats and div kind of games as well. But take a look here with visuals and threats. Over down by the coast, things are pretty chill here. Jumping over to Aoxy and Jojo Fishy, the team that just nearly squeezed out that win there. Talk about well-timed high ground execution for them to go ahead and kind of push Muzz and team off, but they went up there with a game plan, no mats to really back it up, kind of like in a dominating way. So I was really curious. I think they were probably hoping to actually finish Muzz and Rise in that last end game, given that they needed the refresh.
Just one of those situations where a split second can literally decide if you got to play a couple more games in the heat stages or just get to sit back, watch, and enjoy the rest of this one. As Hottie, double pump, trying to go for a little bit of alert. Third-party shots come in their direction, but it didn't make enough noise for the team to actually hear. They just built one piece and just kept on lurking. They tried to fire the shots off, but they just missed that opportunity right there. But I'm not sure if they know where Hottie's actually at up until now.
Yeah, definitely a little side angle play there, but Again, kind of misses opportunity. Didn't feel comfortable going through the cone there. Tries to play for the window angle, and that's not going to work off. So here they go, opting to fight the team that's outside instead. Here comes Pump. Playing around the outskirts again. Good defense here. So Hadi and Pump just not finding any kind of opportunity to swing things around, but look at that in the distance. This is the same exact story, the same song and dance. You have Willie's team hearing what's going on. This time, they're a lot earlier to the fight as opposed to game number 1, and already their influence is going to be felt here. Pump forced to the low ground now, shot a few times and kind of gives up his strong positioning. Hadi wants to disengage from this, and he gets shot on the way out. So this is a pretty rough spot to be in. They're pinched by another duo.
Yeah, 4 teams here. One of them going directly in to crash it. The other one staying on the outskirts saying, hey, if you shockwave to escape, more times than not, you do shockwave out of zone to the south side. They were ready and waiting just to get a little bit more damage. Some teams in this situation, Monster, probably fighting for eliminations, probably fighting for points and loot. Other teams, especially Pack-a-Piece, on the outside, probably just fighting for Storm Surge. They'll take 10 and keep on moving as long as they don't take damage themselves.
Got Pluto here, just trying to hold things down right now, and everyone sort of simmers down now. And this is what happens when 4 teams are deciding that they all want a little bit of the action right now. It's smarter for everyone to kind of wait this one out. They have the Storm on their side, and realistically, you want to kind of sneak out of the situation. You don't want to fight for too much longer. As I say that, I'm so confused as to why Pump would throw himself back into danger, but here we have it.
It's literally so tight here on this side of the map. Pump just pushes out. He gets beamed by Willie, who peeked for a second just to get beamed. His teammate goes to reunite with him just so they don't get pushed. He gets tagged up, and it just goes to show exactly you're right. Maybe at this stage of the game, your loadout might not be as full as it could. You might need some materials, so it might be the best bet to try to disengage outward. We're seeing 2 of the 4 teams already trying that, but we still see Hadi and Willie, both of these 2 separate teams, just lurking around, trying to catch the jump on one another.
This is just them trying to see if anyone makes a mistake, if anyone gets greedy here and kind of flashes themselves early. But no, Hadi, Pump, staying close, but not too close here to the other opponents. And look at this, the zone even favors the side, so it's going to give them even more time to kind of sit around if they so choose. Meanwhile, in the distance, we have another team kind of looking off to figure out what's happening here. They've attracted a lot of attention here on the outskirts.
Yeah, especially when teams can kind of just look down and hold them out. You see the edge of the zone at Heatwave Harbor. Yes, it can still pull towards the north and center up, but already you're seeing kind of the left side. The zone is just out there. The line just goes outside of the map. That tells me that we are moving west on this zone for the most part. So spots like Heatwave Harbor, Calamari Canyon, or any of those split drops in between might be a place that we see a lot of teams bring their attention to. Kuvos, Latino Logic, you see them on the low side. They know that team is up there, but they may not necessarily know they disengaged outward to try to grab hold of that mending machine, something that we're going to see a lot in these lobbies, control of the mending machine or even fights for them.
Oh, yeah. Someone's going to have to obviously bite the bullet there. We'll see how it ends up playing out. Let's take a look at the high ground positioning here from Okus. You have Moneymaker, Fnyajin on the outside. This is the Sinister Strip positioning here. About 6 teams in this general area. Meanwhile, Threats is in a fight for his life. He's caught Pump on the rotate here on the outside of the Sunken Shores. So between him and Visuals, you know, they kind of also made the move around the dead side, and they find themselves in this kind of whirlwind of teams that were down here.
Yeah, and all the way from Cluster, you saw with the zone forcing a lot of teams towards Sunken Shores. It's a no-brainer rotation for Threats and Visuals, just immediately move towards the west, but they had no idea how many teams were in and around Sunken Shores. But at the end of the day, Monster, it does work out for them. Threats able to pick up that one information. Even with Visuals going down, you got to imagine they got to be feeling good, because it's not just the elimination, it's the Storm Surge that they're able to accumulate with Visuals going down.
Yeah, things almost got out of hand there, but obviously with Threats being able to clutch up like that, fend off Hadi, they have things under control now, and they don't have to go into the dangerous city to play for a reboot.
Now on over to the Sanctuary here. You have Wallahi, Chase right now. It's kind of lurking about. I think they also recognize there's potential danger nearby. Plenty leftover loot here for them to kind of scavenge across. And yeah, the team that was holding them down from up top, you saw them sort of glancing back. They definitely knew there was a team there, but they're going to opt to go ahead and get safe. Meanwhile, back on over to Pluto. Kind of gave this one up a bit. But again, you start looking at that storm. It's going far, far west right now.
Yeah, and that's where you kind of have those decisions being made. Just looking at the mini-map, just knowing where those teleportation tunnels are underneath, that might be an option for them, but you got to be very, very careful because you got to imagine other teams possibly doing the same thing, but they have to make a very close and similar rotation to what Threats and Visuals just did, but the timing is just worse for them because as they make it to the zone, the potential for teams to hold them out is going to be there. As we jump on board, and CDZ, a team that lands at the Heatwave Harbor. You see the Mythic Pump. That's from that little duck mini game. You go ahead and start the race, you wait for it to finish, and then 2 cannons kind of shoot out loot. It's not 100% rate for the Mythic, but it's definitely boosts the confidence once you do get it in your hands.
Yeah, most certainly. And you see, when a team's playing very confidently, you could just tell. The last game, obviously, we had folks like Javi and Aminish feeling very strongly about playing for high ground. They committed super early. I'm curious to see if that's the strategy here for them today. Did they just come in with the full intention to be the high ground team? We'll end up finding out. Cold, Ritual. 3 Elims right now. Trying to make up for that last game. This takes me way back. That takes me all the way back to like 2022, 23 days. Snowball tossing at bases. We've seen a lot with Fortnite.
I have no idea, but that was one of the last things in the world I expected, just trying to throw a touchdown pass. And honestly, it's very right and fitting for them because they're a team to where I thought we would see it in that last game for that moment we saw them kind of on the line with Storm Surge. They could bulldoze. They could truck stick a lot of players out of their way, but they also could play smart. They could play methodical. And in this game, it does look like they're taking a slower but faster approach. They're very, very quick to leave the battle woods and position, but now they're taking that slow approach because they don't want to make any drastic mistakes. But only 32 above, 1x, 419 over towards Sunken Shores, and we saw how many teams throughout the course of the game has been rotating in and around Sunken Shores. So this is one risky rotation.
Let's see what the rotate ends up providing for them. Said it's risky. They're taking the risk to the maximum level right now, though. They're pushing straight into a team that's here. They seem to have caught the drop on them, gotten them a little bit by surprise right now. I was going to say, what's 1x's game plan here? He's got really low HP. They're going to be forced to chug here. And this is already not going the way they wanted. All teams have now kind of reset here in this moment. And honestly, Jacob, I'm more concerned now that I think about it, storm sickness. These teams have not left the storm, I think, this entire time, as it's been such a far west pool.
Yeah, it's already, you got to imagine at least 300 of the 500 HP. What Monster means, Storm Sickness, you have 500 HP to stay in the zone. After that, you'll get a warning. After the warning, another 100 HP goes by, and you take double the damage of the storm that you're in. And right now, it's the 5th zone. 2 tick, we got Storm Sickness, 4. It's not too much of a worry. But in the next 55 or so seconds, we're going to go into that 5-tick zone. So if you're outside and your plan is to out-heal it, you better hope you're at least in the position of the zone where it is going to open up and alleviate that pressure.
Look at that, getting into the safe zone with 1 HP. Coming that close here, and no whites to work with as they've exhausted everything in the storm. Only 66 above, so it's likely just a matter of moments before they get taken out. But hey, looking around, there's not many better situations for folks like Zello, Doxy. I mean, there's a reason they also don't have max health. Everyone's pretty weak here.
Yeah,
1x has got
like
the right idea.
Yeah, it's just a huge sign of weakness.
He gets the second.
Wow. 165 below the damage threshold, though. It's going to activate here. when it comes to the 6th zone. And 165 for some players, it's not a tough feeling to be in. But when you're weak, you don't have material, spots in your loadout are empty, sometimes it's a very drastic feeling. And you got to imagine on the other side, Josh and Yamzo has Jason Walaihi just pushed into their box and gets sent back to the lobby. But that must have been a surprise for Josh and Yamzo.
Yeah, for a second there, it was like, oh, okay, they got caught off guard, but come on, you're pushing 2 of the strongest in the lobby. They end up shutting down that resistance with no problem there, and it's going to come as a huge refresher. Look at their material count now. This is almost looking like a creative, creative queue in here with a perfect loadout. So we'll see how that plays out, but a very, very strong showing now for Josh and Yamzo here.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you almost, your HP gets hit down, shield's gone, you survive the fight, and then you get a far pull. But they're just quick to answer that call and start to rotate on over. 197 below. Active surge. The last mini, 3 ticks is all he can take. So less than 30 seconds for him to get 195 plus damage, and he's quickly on the hunt. The first team he sees, he immediately starts to shoot upward to try to get some of those shots to bleed through, but he is quickly running out of time. Can't even shockwave forward as they lose out here in game 2.
Respect the effort, respect their ability to play to the very last second. That's determination, that's hustle, but in the end, Storm Surge is a tough one to beat here. Aoxy, Jojo Fishy facing the same problems here as well. 40 above, so a little bit more to work with and a much better suited loadout to go ahead and weather the storm, but either way, we're gonna see a little bit, need to see a little bit more from them. Start taking a look at things from the widescreen here, Jacob. I see Josh, I see Yamzo sort of maybe eyeing up the high ground here.
Yeah, and you can kind of see the teams immediately as that zone pulls, some of the first to be proactive, to try to beat every other team to the punch, but that's because they have the north side of the map. You see very, very little teams in that path. It's Ritual and Cold and everybody here on this side of the rotation that I'm a little bit more worried about. Even though they're 834 above, they have to rotate alongside so many other teams with or without the shockwave. That's why you see Cold peek into the cone, gathering that information. He might even possibly wait for some of the teams to rotate in front, so there's less he has to worry about on his backside.
Well, it's really cool about, Ritual and Cold falling in game number 1 is they get a little bit of that reality check, right? They have to fight for their surge here. Kind of puts things into perspective. And now they are flying ahead when it comes to damage, but big shot here from down low. Is that what was that? Potential hunting rifle or something like that? I don't know. But he got taken down really fast here. This is going to be all up to Josh now.
He's one of those selfless plays, though. Yamzo, he was taking Storm Surge damage, and instead of using the med kit to try to stay alive, he's just letting Josh go ahead and have it. Get the Siphon Mats, the material, and he's put a lot of pressure here on Josh to solo clutch, but it shows what they think about each other and their chemistry. Yamzo willing to go down, give the extra resources to a player like Josh, somebody who is then taking the scene by storm, but he's only 25 above that damage threshold. His eyes glued to the backside of the zone. He's hoping somebody oversteps their boundaries, makes a mistake like Zara building in wood. We both know it's a sign of weakness, and he bleeds some of those shots through to get more damage.
Yeah, he knows that he's got to keep the pressure on here. Almost putting up a pump fake here on the outside of the zone right now. But looking up to high ground, little chop comes through. Zonda, Okus here, kind of eyeing things up. You still have threats and visuals in the game. Looking very much alive right now. Threats should be able to burn through what's left of his heals, and they'll still have a fighting chance here in the end. Meanwhile, team's starting to drop now. This is where the payouts are going to start coming through for, of course, the big placement points. It's about consistency, but it's also about, of course, getting that Victor Royale. Pikes trying to hide on the high ground here to keep the attention off of him. Ends up being spotted out on the rotate. That's the last of what he had left, so this is just his solo performance now, as Josh is doing the same here on the low ground.
Yeah, the only blessing each of the map is they don't have to worry about Storm Surge anymore, but Josh goes down. Not exactly where you'd hope to finish on the leaderboard for this game, but Okus Zonda flying across, trying to maintain their composure up above. Okus needing a little bit of help here, but luckily for him, you see the materials being passed on over the heels coming out on the bottom. Rise and Muzz, they might be in the mud, but they are making sure to stomp everyone in their path. And for Rise and Muzz, that's a huge upgrade. And again, the selfless play is giving Muzz that golden mythic shotgun.
Yeah, what's interesting about what we're seeing from Rise and Muzz is this is how they will also play the grand finals typically. They are a very, very strong low ground team. So there's just another day in the office for them at this point. Ocus, Zonda, on the other hand, making their first showing in God knows how long now, but it's looking like he's putting up the big flex here for the high ground. But this is another team that really doesn't have much to hold it, so I am curious to see what their next play is. Muzz, shockwaves to the front side. They take a lot of unfortunate damage there.
Another crash coming to the backside of the zone. Ocus goes almost all the way down. Cold is going to get knocked completely, leaving Ritual by himself. But as of late, watching these games, Ritual is really waiting for the clutch. 3 of their 7 eliminations, even digging back deep into the zone to grab the extra materials before he has to shockwave on out inside of the top 14. Just 3 more teams go down. You get at least half of the placement points for your effort if you're Ritual.
Just showing you that even though he goes down, the comms are quick, the decision making is very fast. Ritual wastes no time to go ahead and play for the Chug Jug, get the refresh from Cold's body there. That's going to be the difference maker between, you know, falling very early and possibly making it all the way through to the end game, fighting for a clutch win. Javi and Minish, though, find themselves back on high ground. Okay, they're coming back for more here in game 2. Rise Muzz still doing exactly what they've continued to do, is play this mid ground and low ground very, very well right now.
5 points to county though for Ritual. Just going ahead and playing his Chug Jug. It's the edit open because he knows he's going to have to start running possibly before it's out. But he's definitely on the clock and definitely on notice if teams catch wind of him in the backside of zone. But another elimination for Muzz as he takes down Ishu. They're getting closer and closer to that low ground. Eventually might clash with Clixie and Aiden, but Aiden takes a huge haymaker from Visuals. He gets the knock on the 1, 2 HP, cannot survive the onslaught, but luckily he put Threads in such a winning position to take that fight, taking down Webster. Not only they get elimination points, but placement points as well.
Threads is just so impressive. Ritual's doing the same thing for himself as well. He goes from top 15 to top 5 now. And just like that, he's earned himself so many more points as a solo. Meanwhile, Threat's kind of lurking about. He hears what's happening down low. Muzz and Rise have to be careful here, though. All depends on where Threats decides to put his focus and attention here. Ritual still in the zone, by the way. Playing kind of like the disruptor from the backside, earning points as well.
Yeah, now he's going to have to start going, running low on those Chug Jugs. Does have the med kits, but if he has any hope of getting that shield back on up, he has to get to the zone now. Javi and a Minish not giving up any inches here in this fight. You can see a Minish at the bare minimum. No Chug Jugs, no med kits, no second win condition. That's why they're not dropping low unless they have to, as Muzz gets the elimination onto Ritual, bringing us down to a 2v2. It might seem clean and easy, but Javi and Muzz continue to trade shots back and forth. But a Minish, the only player in this endgame right now that is full health. Muzz, Rise, they're trying to push him off into the zone, but they're not finding the opportunity up until now. Shields are gone, HP going with it, but a Minish makes the play. The first knock is going to come in. 2v1 situation, but no, it is going to be a 1v1. Muzz gets the elim onto Javi, but a Minish will not stand for that. 7 eliminations and a trip to the grand finals.
You know, for a second there, Muzz, Rise, they were asking for a Minish to pay the toll. Come on over if you want to cross this bridge, but he came through with the receipts and put the numbers up at the end there. You'll love to see it, and just like that, they have done enough now, Jacob, to secure their way to the finals, of course, but Muzz and Rise flying up the leaderboard there as well. Game 2 now, Zeke, is officially wraps.
I was looking kind of clean right now, moving around them. I was like, I for sure for a second was like, okay, look, this is Rise and Muzz, right? Like, we can go ahead and shut this down. And I'm like, okay, hold on. What's going? This did not go the way that I thought. Shout outs to Javi and Aminish getting that victory. I'll remember. Now that's it. They don't have to play any more Fortnite today. They just can focus on next week and start building plans for then. But that's got to be just an incredible boost to the confidence.
100%. And honestly, like, as far as confidence goes for this duo right here, they've been doing a pretty good job. They formed kind of just in the last moment of Major 1. So to see them still sticking together and then performing to this level, holding that high ground so much more confidently than we saw Game 1's high ground, that is what we want to see. This was honestly much more of a standard Fortnite game than what we usually see in heats as far as height control goes. So Vivid, this is exactly what we want to see from Javi and Diminished.
So Navi and Minish have kind of flown onto the scene here, like you kind of mentioned, forming last minute. But the thing that's most impressive about them is that I feel like they are kind of to go ahead and get a little bit of a reputation for being a high ground team. I mean, these guys constantly find themselves kind of up in the mix. They're constantly trying to fight for it. I have seen them in the past not be too over-committal for it either. You know, if it doesn't work out, they're kind of happy to go ahead and play elsewhere on the end game. But yeah, I like this from Javi and Minish. And you know, we got to go ahead and call up their placements, right? Because a 6th place in Major 1. They made it all the way to the Summit Finals on Sunday. They played there. They got 35th, so not too good there. But yeah, I'm liking this from these guys. They're playing super, super well. A 4th place into a 1st place on their heat. It's going to be qualifying them to the Grand Finals. And yeah, look forward to these guys, seeing them on the high ground in the finals.
Tell you, Minish looking kind of clean there, Minish. Okay, all right. Hey, look, hey, we're looking. We see it. Again, congratulations to them. Will we see them next weekend? For now, though, a quick break. When we return, 3 more games of Heat number 1. So don't you go anywhere. What is going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the FNCS. Game number 2 of Heat 1 goes over to Javi and Minish. And again, Minish looking kind of looking cool, kind of looking a little clean with it. Let's get ready, though, and take a look at our standings. Remember, we either get a victory royale, which means we're good. We just focus on next weekend's finals. Or we need to end in top 10 in consistency. So when we do break out the leaderboard, don't freak out if you see like 1,000 points. It's not what you think. It just means, hey, they've got themselves a victory royale. They are moving on. Currently, as it stands, take a look, Muzz and Rise. That's right. Hey, let it be known, #1 Muzz and Rise fan right here. Just wanted you guys to know, not a big deal. In this last game, though, they managed to place second Obviously, we saw them kind of in that last little 1v2 situation. Unfortunately, didn't have enough in the tank to kind of, you know, move forward and try to aim for that victory royale, Kelly. But again, if we're aiming for consistency, second place still really, really good.
I mean, it just goes to show the comparisons from game 1 to game 2 that when the both of them are still alive, how well they move together on that low ground, making sure that they're still grabbing a bunch of eliminations. And you can see the Loda as well. They have the Mythic Shotgun. And if I'm not mistaken, Rise at one point also had the Mythic Pump as well. So they're making sure that they have the load up that they wanted going into the end game, but just not able to clutch out that finish against Javi and Diminished.
Yeah, super excited to kind of see Muzz and Rise doing well. Obviously, Zeke, every single time Muzz is on the screen in any capacity, just everything gets louder around me. I don't know, it's super, super weird. But Muzz and Rise, man, super excited to see them doing well. You can see them in first place in terms of the consistency. And I would love to kind of see Rise kind of return to the top of things. Like, he's been getting some 5th places right over the course of the year. In Major number 1, he got 5th. Obviously, he's playing super, super well. But breaking that 5th place, right, jumping into, like, top 3, how great would that be able to see Muzz kind of get into the top 3 when it comes down to the finals? Would love to see it. But it looks like, you know, qualifying to those finals specifically, it's going to be easy for Muzz and Rise here today.
That's what I like to hear, Vivid. You can keep saying that. I'm unbiased here, okay? I'm unbiased.
Oh, okay.
Let's take a look at those standings. I'm a big Muzz fan. All right, leave me alone. Wanted to highlight here for you Ritual and Cold. In this last game, they found 3rd place with 8 eliminations. It's kind of crazy, too, because in the game before, we had a 34th place with no eliminations. So really tough out of them. But again, this is Ritual and Cold, right? I mean, Kelly, I ain't worried.
I mean, you can see their loadout. They're setting themselves up from early to mid game to make it into these end games with full loadout. They have they have great mats, good heals, but obviously when it's down to this mid game and in these heats, it's just not exactly the predictable end games that we can expect from final lobbies. So they might be running into a few issues, maybe some players that are on the mid and low ground that they just weren't expecting. But Ritual able to hold it once again, making all the way into 3rd place right there. And regardless if they're able to get a VR or not, Vivid, it doesn't really matter because currently they are well within contention of making it into the grand finals next week.
Up 41 places for those guys. Super, super good. But they're not the only team that's going to be bumping themselves up the leaderboard, right? 7 places for the likes of Visuals and Threats. You can see them up there with 103 points. Now, listen, for Visuals and Threats, man, super excited to kind of see them join forces here on the big stage. But you know, this is like kind of the result of some of these teams getting mixed up on NAC, which is why we're going to be seeing these guys even be able to join up in the first place. And so far, it looks like it's kind of working out. I feel like whenever we kind of talk about Threats, obviously one of the biggest things for him has always been his aim. And it would kind of be great to see him join forces here with Visuals and kind of see how they can do.
Yeah, I actually was just trying to really quickly look up Visuals, Braids, and Threats, if I'm not mistaken, were a trio together at one point. So once again, although this isn't the duo that we've seen because Visuals and Visuals and Braids have been playing together for so long, this is still a team that has played together. So to see this synergy, even though they've only been together for a couple of weeks, is not that surprising because they do have that history together.
I love it. Guys, we've got a minute here before we jump back into game. Obviously, 2 games down. We've got 3 left to go. And if we don't get a VR or end in the top 10, we are going to take it to the last chance. I know many duels don't want to do that, right? So with 3 games left to go, what changes you guys feel like we maybe have to make? Do we need to go ahead and say, hey, let's get aggressive. Let's go take fights. Do we need to maybe start playing for these consistencies? Like, where are you guys at?
Well, there's still 3 games left. They have plenty of opportunity to do some VOD reviewing right now and to see which POIs are potentially open. With 2 teams gone, that means that there's 2 spots potentially open. So maybe some of these smaller teams that have less established POIs are going to be looking to where those teams have left.
Couple of wins from the high ground so far, Zeke, and that means that some of these high ground teams are, of course, leaving the competition, which potentially opens the door for some of our other teams to go ahead and take the high ground.
Okay, all right, I like it. I like the breakdown from both of you. For now, though, game number 3 is upon us. The pressure's starting to sink in for sure. Let's see how the duels handle it. Casters, take it away.
Yeah, definitely, Jacob. You know, I was thinking, you know, talking about what teams are going to mix it up. Najin actually stood alive for 18 minutes as a duo, and then they fell just short of earning real meaningful points. But lucky for them, I mean, there's still 3 games ahead of us.
No, it definitely is, and we saw from game 1 to game 2, contested to uncontested, the drop spots open up. You know, I'm looking at the Vital Scrims drop map right now, and I'm looking at Frosted Flats. With Javi and Aminish no longer in the map, I think teams are starting to realize if it's good enough for these guys to qualify out of, it should be good enough for us. But if multiple teams have that same idea, Monster, you're just going to go from one contested fight to another.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a story as old as time, right? If a new team quals and they go on over, other teams are going to land there. Let's see it, though, as Game 3 sounds like it's ready.
The merry-go-round comes around again, seeing where teams drop. Hopefully, they're a little bit more prepared this time around, but this is where we have 3 games left, and I feel like if you're on the line, you got to have at least consistent top 10, top 8 games to stay within that range. But if you have one slip up, it might mean you have to play for that victory royale. 5 teams get in with the game victories, and then top 10 on the leaderboard afterwards.
Yeah, realistically, we are starting to run out of opportunities here to be a consistent team that pulls through and gets a qual spot. So, you know, it's now or never. You can't really afford to fall behind for more than 3 games. It becomes almost near impossible. We start talking about teams having tough times. These are definitely some of them. Pluto, Nip actually mixing up their drop, right? We saw this team over by the shores for quite some time. And even here, getting met with a lot of resistance, so things not exactly working out. But hey, I can respect any team trying to mix up the strategy, right, and go for new opportunities.
4 teams, though? 4 teams landing at Frosted Flats, and honestly, I can't necessarily blame them, but it just goes from one contested fight to another, as I was saying, and even less loot on top of that. Hopefully they can find some loot, some scraps on the surrounding lands. Walehi, Chase, over towards Cluster Coast. We know that visuals and threats are a little bit more south at the actual POI, so they're just trying to go in and moving up the outskirts, up the coastline, just try to get whatever scraps are going to be there. The other competition, Logan and Atlas on the other side. They're just kind of like mixing, because Chase and Leahy were supposed to be landing at the Sanctuary, but they probably don't want to take that off-spawn fight against Onsite and Hayes.
Yeah, definitely not. It's always so much risk, those early fights. Some teams, you know, do excel in that kind of scenario as well. Let's jump over to some action over here. Atreyu does have 2 eliminations. He's barely holding on by a thread right now. Let's just see a single HP. Clueless is the one that's a little more healthy as he gets punished. Shot in the back, shot again. No mats to protect himself, and a strong start with an even faster finish now at the Frosted Flats. I mean, you can't afford add a couple more to the tally here. Things are continuing to heat up over here.
Even Moneymaker and Fanaya that now have an uncontested split drop on the side. You said, you know what, we hear so much noise, it has to be a few teams fighting, and they were the ones who stole away at least one of those eliminations, helping their surge, helping their points as they rise up the leaderboard. Jump on board. Hottie and Pump, kind of the same thing for them, but they didn't necessarily go directly in. They're just trying to rotate around. But you see so many shots come in the distance. Sunken Shores last game was probably one of the most crowded POIs that game. This time around, it has to be Frosted Flats.
Yeah, Frosted Flats is looking pretty gnarly right now for heat number 1. I doubt that's going to be the story of the weekend. Meanwhile, Josh Yamzo, much quieter over here at the Wonky Land. Not as much attention drawn to this side of the map right now. You know, last game, they were pretty much the last team to rotate out, and they still had, you know, managed to make a very strong endgame for themselves. Although the zone went all the way west, this time it's kind of favoring them a bit more, so I'm expecting them to probably set themselves up for a win potentially. We'll see.
Just need one good zone pull and just kind of looking. It's very, very early still, Monster. This could definitely pull towards the center further and further away from Wonky and where Yaxi and Jojo Fishy currently are at. But already it's got to be good signs that you have a lot of time before you press to do anything. As you see a whole other team underneath, this would be a good amount of surge damage. No shockwaves to close the distance. So again, just one of those calculated decisions to where they're happy with the damage. They don't need the eliminations. They don't need to risk their game for the loot. They have a whole mountainside that they can go ahead and try to get as much of a loadout as possible. So no big risk coming out from Aoxy and Jojo Fishy. Just standard gameplay as usual.
Yeah, definitely doing well right now to get themselves positioned up. Lukem, though, looking out for a bit of a ambush here onto Nut and CDZ. Nut and CDZ, a very, very established duo. Teams that have been in these set lobbies multiple times before for Sparky and Luke. They're asking for potentially a lot right here, but they've now poked the bear. They don't capitalize on the lead either. Nut instead opts to play for the ultimate height. He bounces out of there. And they want to take the fight on their terms.
They move from Heatwave Harbor, loot up their POI, and just kind of grab that mountain range for their surge. Say they continue to kind of hold 10 toes down and not be moved from that spot. On the other side of the map, Kaz's Noah plays over at Golden Grove, and it is that legendary drop, so he does have increased chance for those blue rare chests. Got to imagine that's how they were either able to get so much gold or the chug jugs. Only 35 in the inventory, so they did go spending towards that vending machine, which they're trying to make their way back to.
Talk about getting right back into it. Here it is. Right now, CDZ buys himself a little bit of room. What's Nut doing? Just putting up a strong offense right here. While his teammate kind of positions up. This is what happens, you know, they kind of initiated this fight with them. They asked for this to go down, and CDZ and Nut are like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and take that. This is exactly what we wanted.
Especially since the way they're playing right now, they're not able to land shots back to try to slow down Nut and CDZ, so they do think they have a little bit more of an advantage, and that's why they're just trying to push them back, gain that piece control. CDZ does get tagged up once. Third parties start to interrupt this fight, so it might be a sign for CDZ and Nut to slow down, because they don't necessarily have a massive advantage in this fight, or at least not just yet.
I think slowing down right now. It's Latino logic. It's kind of showing up here. Quavos as well. Everyone recognizing there might be danger nearby, but a couple pop shots here to see if they can antagonize, looking to jump out. Other fights happening in the vicinity though. Jumping back to the Frosted Flats where our, 8% of the lobby is residing. Just so much of the lobby here just kind of hanging out.
Just tough. Hotty's just kind of like, I wouldn't say trapped underneath, but just kind of taking what you can get on the eastern side of Frosted Flats. Decent chance at that metal, which you see them kind of farming up. It's just the way out and extra resources for the loadout that has the big question mark for me, as Heatwave Harbor still has Nut and CDZ running around. It was supposed to be contested. But whether or not they made short work of their opponents, you can see that they're instantly moving around from point to point, just trying to give themselves the best advantage. And this is how CDZ was able to pick up their elimination, causing some confusion onto Luke before he took him down.
Yeah, nice little elim right there. Jumping back to moneymaking for Najin, like we said, now that we're like completely uncontested, they had a lot of runway to make an endgame, and they got there, but they just couldn't push it to the placement points in game number 2. So slowly but surely have been trending their way upwards. But look, they've only earned 6 points on the day so far. These are the final 3 opportunities now, but remember, even if you're at the bottom dead last, you can still win a game and go to finals.
Just like Frosted Flats, you're seeing Sinister Strip kind of more and more occupied. Gives a huge signal of where the zone is actually moving towards. And even though Sinister Strip's a good place to kind of box up, when it does become this crowded, you see a lot of the teams from the north, from the eastern side, will end up in and around this actual location. So getting in might be easy. It's getting out that has a little bit of worries for me. But they'll go ahead and deal with that when that time comes. For Zonda and Okus, it's just about farming up. They lack a lot of brick, a decent amount of metal and wood as well. So they're relatively safe here, so they're using this time to try to finish up their loadout.
They are base down here. Jojo Fishy playing the Storm. Kind of crazy having like left this general area since they've gotten here even this late into the Storm. Looking at the feed, seems like Zoe might have gotten taken out. Fell, possibly, to some fall damage, but Storm finished him off.
Uh-oh. You heard that? We saw that. Reboot over towards Latte Landing, and Jojo Fish Aoxy. At times, they do rotate over towards Latte Landing to get some extra scraps, seeing what's left behind, but F.A. Bob Zaris, they're here, and Aoxy and Jojo Fishy are lurking around. They know at least one of these players here has little to nothing in their inventory.
Push pretty aggressively here. This is without taking the time to heal, so you know they're really trying to take advantage of the fact that there was this fresh reboot here. Yoxi now forced to slow things down for a moment here. Do keep in mind, looking at how far they are from the safety of the next zone, they can't stay around too long.
From one zone to the next, basically seeing a far journey for Aoxy and Jojo Fishy. And not too far one for Clixie and Aiden before they reach the zone, but depending on how south it continues to pull, might be a different story and a different question. And Dozier and Ishu on the other side. They know somebody's down here. That's going to be Gary on the other side. Possibly pinpointing him down as a solo, so they're going to try to use their numbers advantage before his teammate can try to make their way on back. So this is going to be a 2v2 fight. And for Dozier and Ishu, this is a moment right here, Monster. First place in the play-in opens. They get pretty high on the divisional cup leaderboards in the opens. It's just set lobbies, these final styles lobbies, where they do tend to fall a little short. With 84 points right now, Monster, they are ahead of the curve, but this is a chance here in Heat 1 to prove that they belong at the top.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've watched Void Issue pop off time and time again, continue to kind of work his way up to the top, but these are the moments of his career where he's going to look back and just have to decide for himself, does he want to be one of the best players in the lobby or not? First, it comes through with, of course, pulling that victory out and making your way to finals. Let's see what the preparation looks like. Meanwhile, Hadi, Pump, this is, again, one of those duos that were a part of the 4 that landed in contention of one another. They have 3 eliminations, so almost half of the action there falling to them.
Yeah, just kind of looking at their loadout. You never guessed they were in the situation that you're speaking of. The quad contested, even with Moneymaker coming over. That's 5 teams in that direction, but for Clixie and Aiden, 3 below the damage threshold. This is where you can kind of see the experience at play for a team, whether they have it or not. Do you get desperate for 3 damage, or you play slow and steady? There goes an opportunity there that they connect with 38 above. So even though they're barely above that damage threshold, at least they don't have to worry about taking the damage if it does activate.
Yeah, no one wants to be taking that damage in any case. What we have here, a little bit of a standoff right now. We have 3 duos. Sevenatra, Ek kind of playing the low ground here.
They got that scanning device out of the vending machine. Not sure it's the best purchase, depending on the situation that you're in overall. You're in the zone, you're going to need some extra heals, but with how many teams are here, it's definitely a good amount of information. Seeing where everybody's boxed up at, seeing what type of rotation and play you can make as Aiden and Clixie get good damage onto Evan, force him underneath, leaving Gary behind, but only for a few short seconds before he tries to make his way on back.
See it. They've already got the data that they need here. They actually have the damage too. This is relatively favorable for them right now. And now they're pushing players back. Evan's on the run here. Clixie and Aiden doing a good job. Just like that, they kind of clear the air right now. What's left is Osid and 7 there. Just kind of sitting around. Let's take a look at Aiden's perspective on the A-limb for a second there. He actually catches Gary before he could hit the zip. That's how they convert their big elim there in the siphon. That gives them the momentum.
It's just tough because they still got to rotate all the way to the south. And you're seeing the western edge right here with Webster in encrypted, getting decently crowded already. The north side with all the teams coming from Sinister Strip, we know that's going to be crowded. As Acorn and Cold pick up their 2nd elimination of this game. And honestly, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head where you were talking about game 1, a little bit of a wake-up call for them. They're not going to just kind of cakewalk around the lobby in every situation. Since then, in most of these moments, we've seen them well above that damage threshold, but you see them trying to make a mad dash, only about 8 seconds. It goes from a 2-tick to a 5-tick, so they want to conserve as many of these heals as possible. They have to go now.
Yeah, what's cool about this, like I mentioned before, is I think they're going to take these learnings into grand finals as well. They're very much on track, if nothing else, to get through on consistency. But take a look at this. The rotate goes south for Cold right now. Ritual is saved, but Cold stuck in the zone, forced to chug it out by himself. Cube's doing a great job putting up, or sorry, Ritual's putting a great defense right now just to try to ease up the pressure for Cold to make his rotate out. And it just works out perfectly.
Yeah, spraying back was absolutely perfect because they could have easily looked back at Cold, try to 2v1 as Ritual and Cold start the rotation as soon as they reunite. But again, it's just not getting any easier. They're on the low side, on the beachfront, and you got all these mountain ranges all the side. Teams already camped up top with their bases looking back with a chance to try to get damage. Muzz and Rise going to have to make that similar rotation because now the zone is already there.
Take a look at the highlight here for Muzz. They're already very situated as well. Mind you, this is just teams finding themselves in a terrible spot, likely Surge fighting on the base next door, and they just couldn't ignore the action there. They're actually our most consistent team right now as well. They were leading in elims, leading in placement points, just playing excellent, high-caliber Fortnite right now. Noah plays, makes another end game here with Kaz's. Team that has just continued to show up and honestly I think surprise everyone as Noah's just only gotten better and better, staying so consistent, kind of sticking the course here as a competitive player.
Agree, just kind of looking at their points and some of the other points in the lobby. As it stands right now, obviously the game's going to continue to push that threshold up, but coming into this game, in order to qualify through consistency, it was around 68 points. So if you have 68 or more points, you know you're ahead of that curve. And just judging off of Major 1, it was around 143, 145, and 175 points to qualify out of heats. So already you're seeing a little bit of an average, a goal line to try to achieve. And HQ, 121. He's well above the threshold of where he needs to be at this point in time in the game, but he's 146 below for Storm Surge. Good damage right there, gets himself above, but he is a constant target from the rest of the lobby, burning through his materials and his HP.
Pretty incredible to think they have 4 elims, by the way, and he is barely holding on to his life right now as far as the Surge is just looming over his shoulders here. And with 5 shockwaves as well, he's got a lot to work with, but so little health. What a tough spot to be in. Great little cheeky tag there to go ahead and give him a little bit more cushion. In the end, though, if he could just stay low until things kind of simmer down, hopefully he can earn some more placement points for his hard troubles. There's Josh and Yamzo just about to make the rotate. They use the shock to go and get that unlimited sprint going. And off to the races they go.
Yeah, just taking that different approach. Typically you do see teams, especially with mountain range like that, using the shockwave to go up and over the mountain. They know the risk that that possesses, so they just go ahead and use it in the box for the effect and just run it on 2 feet. Super laced up here. It's Moneymaker and Fanayan are looking like the early team for the high ground. They're not investing too much because they know this can easily pull across the map. So they're going to wait and see if they pull it or they do not. And right now they have pulled zone. A blessing for Moneymaker and Fanayan.
Yeah, most definitely here. And look at this. You know, we shouted them out for good reason because we know they came to NA to put up big performances. Going for high ground is exactly how you do just that, especially when you're pretty much on a 2-game deficit. They have 2 make up for time. They almost want to secure the win right now to go ahead and shut all the doubters out.
Even though they have to still rotate to the actual zone, they built up just high enough that when anybody's shockwaves pass, they're not going to be able to steal it easy. And that's going to allow them to accumulate more numbers. HQ finally goes down to Moneymaker. He threads the needle from the high ground to find that one. Get 3 more points for their totals. Starting to ramp up here. Visuals, threats, backside of the zone, 163. You can see when it comes to their actual resources, they're running thin on both materials and heals to heal this situation. So they might be on the hunt for elimination here as this game continues.
Man, Visuals and Threats is such an exciting team because, you know, you just would have never thought Visuals would be playing with someone other than Braids, right? Like, with how much time they had together. So it's really nice to also just see Threats kind of excel, too, as a player again. But again, this is just the heats. Things are going to get remarkably harder as we jump into next week. First, back with Cold and Ritual. Game 1 was tough. Game 2 and 3 looking fantastic so far. As the rotates are coming together, but looking up top, Fanayan still holding it down. Moneymaker still has control over things. They even put pressure down onto Josh and Yamzo. They're making everyone's second guess going any higher than the kind of average player should.
when you have another team here, Muzz and Rise, that do like to go for the high ground. They're busy with problems of their own. They don't even have a chance to look up. Moneymaker looking like he's dropped to the backside of zone to try to find elimination. Threats having to go the rest of this game as a solo, and right now he's very, very light. Less than Siphon mats left in his inventory. He can get up to 200 effective shield and HP, but he's waiting till he gets to the front side of zone. Give him a real chance once he's healed up to try to fight for any bit of that loot that he needs.
Moneymaker's going to need a big refresh here. Looks like they're trying to size up this team down low and make a big play. Meanwhile, Josh Nyamto doing just that. Josh continuing to tear things up here. 3 elims now in the end game. They seem to be very much fired up. Noah plays, just gets taken out there. Hottie finally falls. Talk about their first big game for themselves. Now putting themselves sort of in the race here. Meanwhile, look at this. Gemity and Oak end up being the team on top.
Yeah, they were able to get an elimination onto Fanayan, forcing Moneymaker outside of the zone. But Cold and Ritual, they want that high ground as well. They immediately go ahead and fight for it, forcing Ulk and Gemini to pause in their position. They're outside of the zone as well, so Ritual and Cold have to be careful. That threat, even though they're out and have to make their way in, a shockwave can send them flying for the high ground, and typically that is the play. As Moneymaker trying to make some plays on his own as a solo. 3 eliminations here, and he's still climbing inside of the top 10, so he's at least half of the placement points already.
This is massive here, right? They went from just 6 points to now obviously having a foot in the door. But if they want to race their way up, he's going to need to continue to push it a little bit further. Josh Nyamzo making it easy for them, though, as they're the team fighting all the others here on the low and mid ground, but no material counts as Zoe falls first. Josh clutches a huge shot onto JoJo, but not enough to get the conversion here. Meanwhile, Ritual falls from the high ground as they get contested, and it's all up to Cold now. So I'm seeing the count say at least a team versus all solos here. Moneymaker still alive here, somehow still cooking. Pressure coming from the low ground though, Jacob.
It's Webster. It's Webster down below with Encrypted, the only duo left alive, and they're putting an immense amount of pressure on the Cold, forcing him down below, even trying to refarm. Encrypted taking down Cold. 2v1 situation. Moneymaker, he has a decent shot here against Webster in a 1v1. If he can buy the time, he has the chug chugs and the materials. This is 100% winnable for Moneymaker against Webster on the other side with Encrypted.
It's so winnable right now, but he's gone through the metal, now down to the wood, has to reinforce here. And actually, this is perfect, but no, the water is going to force them down to the low ground and start firing up, almost giving them the playbook there. And in the end, Moneymaker put up a great fight, though, to jump their way up a significant amount of points there.
I know, you got to give Encrypted a lot of credit right there. He was played with HQ for so long. He's taken a chance here on Webster, and not only did they win the game, they were the only duo left alive. They have to be flying high on Cloud 9. Welcome to the FNCS Grand Finals, but with Game 3 done and over with, Zeke, we're at the halfway point.
We really are. And for this duo, this is a really big thing, right? Because they came into that game in 15th place with only 65 points, right? And you got to think like, okay, coming out that far outside of the top 10, they're going to have to continue to fight and come up with strategies and make sure that with the last few games we have, they can break in. And every other duo is trying to do the same thing. But hey, Kelly, you get a victory out. It's like, oh, just kidding. I don't need to worry anymore. I'm good. I'm in finals.
I mean, it's so crazy to see a team like Webster and Encrypted who came into the heats essentially in like 140th or something around there, and they only have 5 finals played for Encrypted, so Webster has never been in a grand finals before. And to see them go up against the likes of Cold and Ritual and all these other bigger names and come out on top, that is what I love to see, Vivid. Big shout outs to Webster and Encrypted.
Well, Zeke had kind of posed the question, right? What do some of our teams need to do going into game number 3? I mentioned it. Some of that space had actually opened up on the high ground. Of course, we did see that Cold and Ritual were trying to go ahead and stake a claim to that themselves, but a couple of teams kind of flying up were able to force them down. So it's just going to be Encrypted and Webster left alive from the low ground here to actually handle it here and kind of net us our first low ground win of the day. Unfortunately for everybody that was actually contesting for the high ground, they just were kind of ended up being shambles. And you can see Moneymaker again tried to put up a great effort right there, but never was given the opportunity to even get a shot off on this duo. And like Kelly mentioned, very, very exciting stuff here for Webster, making it to his first grand finals.
And you got to think for him in that moment, you know, like that 1v2, like think about anytime you've got like your first victory, how nervous you must be. now, and even that moment to go like, hey, we need to take this shot together. We need to go in together. The fact they managed to pull it off, their first finals, such an achievement for them, for their career. Man, what an incredible sight to see. With that, we only have 2 games left to go. A break. I know it's been going fast. Then we come back. We'll take a look at the standings and start preparing ourselves for game number 4. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, Fortnite fam, to the FNCS. This is Heat 1 out of Major 2. There we go, Zeke,
Yes.
you got it. We got it there. Congratulations to Webster and Encrypted getting a victory out, which means they're going straight through to next weekend's finals. A lot of prep going to be required for that, but now they have the rest of the weekend and the week to focus on that. Let's start taking a look, though, at this leaderboard. I don't know. As I look across this leaderboard, Buzz and Rise. Whoa, look at that. They're leading the pack. Look at me, unbiased Zeke. Shout outs to Muzz and Rise here. Again, playing for consistency. We see in this last game a little 12th place with 4 eliminations. Yeah, Kelly, I'm unbiased, so looks pretty good to me.
I mean, when you watch their gameplay, how could you be anything but unbiased? They just play it so well, so smart, and then making it into the end game. They have heals, they have a loadout that's ready to go. But unfortunately, they've never been like a big hype team, and it definitely seems like in these heats right now, that hype definitely seems to be reigning supreme right now. So running through that low and mid ground where there's just so much chaos, Vivid, there's only so much you can do, even when you are an experienced team like Muzz and Rise.
Yep, without a doubt. That being said, that was actually like their little bit of a falter there from them, landing in just 12th place. As in the first 2 games was actually 6th and 2nd place. So they're playing much better before that one, but no need to fear as they still are in first place on that consistency leaderboard. And we kind of talked about a little bit of a guess from me and Kelly, right? Maybe around like 140 points. They're already on 172, so they should be fine throughout the rest of the day, I'd imagine. And the last 2 games, we'll have to see if they can kind of clutch up the victory royale if they, if they want to.
If they want to. I mean, it would be good for the leaderboard, right? That means they move up, then we pull everyone up one whole placement. Could be pretty good for a duo out there. We'll have to see. But now at the halfway point, why don't we take a look at the players in Focused, powered by Milk. So this is a little session summary. Talk us through some of what we're seeing here.
Oh my goodness. Well, this isn't 2% right here. We're going for the straight whole milk right from the start. We got Josh up there with 10 eliminations. And I know we got the Eomzo and Josh story. There's just so many new duos coming out. And I say new. Eomzo and Josh aren't necessarily new. But as far as this year goes, these kind of veteran players picking up newer players like Josh just goes to show how much like positivity you come from making that connection. Now, obviously with Damage Dealt, we know that Javi is up there, of course. But for me, Vivid, to see the shotgun damage coming out of threats, that's what I like to see.
Yeah, incredible stuff there, but take a look at the solo points clutch here. Our biggest solo clutch points game of the day was actually in game number 3. 60 points here, by the way, and as you can see, the name right there, naming culture, is going to be April 19, 2025. For whatever reason, this is actually going to be Hayes who was doing up with on site. But yeah, listen, 60 points in just game number 3, so our biggest clutch of the day. Incredible stuff there, and it's kind of great to go ahead and take a look at the breakdown here. We're a little bit over halfway through the competition, so we'll have to see if some of these players can kind of stay towards the top in terms of those individual performances.
I gotta hope so. Okay, guys, 2 minutes to go. Let's bring up this leaderboard once again. 2 is the number here because we have 2 games left before we wrap up heat number 1. Wanted to highlight here Cold and Ritual. So remember, back in game 1, we had a 34th place, kind of a not a great start, right? But in this last game, yet another 3rd place. They just got 3rd place in the game before with 8 elims. This time, they get a 3rd place with 6 eliminations. So, I mean, look, guys, listen, I'm excited to see Cold and Ritual play. The question, I think, for me becomes, will we see them go for that VR? They've continually been on height, so they're poised to do it, Kelly, but I'm kind of like, all right, when's it going to happen?
I mean, it's interesting that you say that because if we look to the most recent Div Cup finals, Ritual and Cold won the whole thing, but actually did it with no VRs. No, what they did was make it in first place through their average placements with a 7.17 there. And honestly, making sure that they're in the top 5, top 10 of the leaderboard is kind of how they like to play. That's what we're seeing here right now. And obviously, that's why they are at the top of our leaderboard.
Yeah, if we're kind of in a meta right now where height is kind of winning these games, and we're going to be taking a look at like Cold and Ritual, who primarily like to, of course, play that low gun. Of course, they were kind of dabbling in on the high gun throughout game number 3 here, but if they're going to be consistently playing the low gun, then yeah, wins are going to be pretty tough for them to go ahead and secure just because of how strong high gun actually seems right now. But listen, they're always going to be very, very consistent. This is why these guys are kind of rejoining forces here in Major number 2. And listen, in heat number 1, they're already proven that they are going to be a team to worry about in finals.
Yes, that's the thing, right? We have to remind ourselves the heats, it's not all of the high profile duos we're used to seeing, right? They're kind of all spread out over these heats. But next weekend, if I'm in these, heats 2 or 3, I'm thinking, man, the moment they show up, if I'm at their POI or they're close by, they are going to be a problem. 2 games left to go before we wrap up heat number 1. The pressure is mounting. Casters, take it away.
Like you said, there's only 2 games left, Monster, and we have 3 teams already in the grand finals. So if you look at the leaderboard, 97 points is that place to be on the leaderboard, which is around a 32 points a game average.
Yeah, it's not too bad, right? Especially considering what you just watched other teams do. Pull through with a 70, 60, 50-point game and put yourself kind of in the race. All you need is a small step in the right direction right now, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, and just kind of look at one of those teams inside of the leaderboards, get the victory royale in the last 2 games. It essentially opens up a spot on the leaderboard. So I can't tell you exactly where these teams need to land, but I do know the lowest this year in heat so far in NA around 145 points, and the highest being 175 points.
Yeah, that's like a pretty steep gap there. So we'll see where it ends up ending here for heat number 1. But first, game number 4.
Time is definitely winding down. I talked about that 97-point mark as it stands right now. Obviously, it's going to increase with the next 2 games, Monster. But what do you have to do here in the situation if you're on the line but outside of the bubble?
Yeah, you know, at this point, it really just depends. If you don't have about 30 or 40 points, this late into the tournament cycle, you have to be as cautious as possible and go for the win at all costs. So you need to become a high ground team right now, right at this very moment. But if you are in the conversation, stay the course, try to make a couple end games, and your story's a little bit different, right? Everyone's journey is a little bit different depending on where they're at right now.
That's why we love Fortnite, because anything can happen from the start of the day to the very end. Just like in last game, we saw 4 teams land here over at Frosted Flats. It gets a little bit less congested this time around with only 2. One of them still being Hottie and Noise on the south side of the actual POI. Sunken Shores, it went from 2 teams to 3 this time around as Pluto and his duo just have a little bit more attention coming their way.
Yeah, definitely. Sunken Shores bringing the action back over here. For Nip and Pluto, I gave them a lot of respect last game, just considering that they were willing to kind of mix things up, but they're going back to old trusty. They didn't like how landing at an available, air quotes, available drop worked out for them. They're back here.
Just a little bit of a slower approach. There is a decent amount of loot in Sunken Shores. If you continue to go to the south, there's even more loot there, and then on the west and eastern edges as well. But you could already see a 4th team making their way over towards Sunken Shores, so you got to imagine that split drop is already being contested. So the longer teams stay in the actual POI versus getting scraps elsewhere, I feel like the harder their game is going to be overall. But just like the duck game at Heatwave Harbor, there's a little bit of a mini game. You go ahead and fix the pump, and you go underneath the tower. You do that one as well, and then you kind of see in the middle there is a fountain. You can actually make a wish with 200 gold. It gives you like a random set of loot, but the loot it gives you is pretty good.
Right, it'll be a huge upgrade for the most part here, especially in the early game. But look at this, you still have so much kind of danger lurking in the city. You have to be very much careful here. This might work out to be an ambush play though. Oh no, Pluto knows exactly where they're at. I thought for a second there he was walking into a trap. He's coming for the fight.
Yeah, sometimes you think the audio-visual changes, they might not be anybody there, but 3 teams now as Carlito says, hey, you guys aren't going to fight without us. It's exactly what you're talking about. If you're at a certain point threshold at this stage in the tournament, the only thing that can really bring you back is just maybe top 2s, top 3s with a certain number of elimination because there's only 2 games left, or simply put that victory royale. And with the spot that is this contested, we saw a 4th team already make their way over, and look at the minimap again. A 5th team is now on their way over. Where was my invitation?
Yeah, we're going to rename this drop to the Chalked Shores. This place is chalked all the way through and through. More teams showing up, more problems for everyone here. For Sleepsy, Donatello, they're on the opposite side over at the Calamari Canyon. They have a few teams in the vicinity as well. It's HQ. It's obviously Void XO there in the distance. But Donnie and Sleepsy have a lot on the line, right? They're one of the few that are actually in the conversation right now for being one of the consistent teams to push through.
And this is how they're picking up that first one. Probably caught Fly out of position. Good beam on him. Get him to get a little overzealous and use the shockwave to close the gap. Dinker and Jax also changing up their drop spot here. With only 2 games left, I can't blame anybody for trying to figure out a way to get inside of that consistency or win a game. Even includes changing the drop as Jax does go down though. Luke, Sparky, it looks like they're the ones who are able to get the eliminations, possibly one more on the Shore's teammate Kyle. So you see they basically have control over Sinister Strip as of now.
Sinister Strip now in full control here. Just got to wrap this little bit of action up here. Oh, big shot from down low. Hold up. You're starting to count him off. The Shore's got a completely different story he's trying to write here. Meanwhile, new team lurking up. It's Okus, it's Zonda. Eyes on him right now. Can Okus do it here and now?
And this could be the golden opportunity, especially with Webster and Encrypted already qualifying. They were kind of splitting that split drop on the outside. Now they get a full loadout, max loot, and a chance to really play this game on out. But Okus, even though they did an immense amount of damage, he takes a haymaker of a shot himself, slowing down the roll they were just on, forcing Zonda right now to try to go ahead and build them some extra space, a little bit of a cushion. Even see Sparky and Luke backing out, went back to the mending machine. I think everybody overcommitted in the situation. They thought that wasn't too risky until it was.
You know what it is, too? They get that damage, but that monstrous return shot probably makes them net negative if you think about it. So we'll see if this ends up being a risk that wasn't worth taking here. They'll have to see this through to the very end. Meanwhile, Muzz and Rise roll up pretty quickly here. Doxy, Ruins, kind of sensing other teams nearby. They opt for a bit of a low position. Muzz gets the better of Doxy in the exchange here.
Doxy and Ruin has to be careful here. They're poking the bear of Muzz and Rise and coincidentally put themselves right in the middle of two teams that can try to spray them out. And that's exactly what's going down. But Rise steps one too many foot forward. Hadi's going to go ahead and land a good shot. That was the third team there, taking the attention away from Doxy. And it looks like everybody here now has a moment to attempt to disengage. How much of that risk you're going to take, that's a whole nother question. Because as of now, Monster, as long as they're above that damage threshold, they're not in too bad of a situation.
Yeah, this is not too bad at all. Look at this, though. Map knowledge coming into play here, but ooh, caught on the other side for Rise. Just trying to see what the tension starting to build here. Ruins, Doxy still doing a good job here putting up defense on the other side. You see the fight, of course, happening just outside the shorts. You can zip in. Pluto there just haven't caught a break. Muzz and Rise earned so many points. I mean, they're practically done for the evening, but this is all just extra practice. Little cherry on top.
I was about to say, if he hits a max pump through that window, like just let Muzz qualify. Even without a win, he can just go directly to finals, thinking in and outside of the box. While Muzz distracts on the other side, Rise actually gets in, lands at least one good shot, and separates the team that they're going after. This could be a moment for Rise and Muzz to at least solidify one of these two eliminations. But the longer and longer they take, just like Sunken Shores, look at the mini-map, how many teams are in and around this current location.
Still laughing at the idea of Muzz just gets the elim and a victory out screen pops up on his monitor. The game ends. Just be hilarious, but Rise Muzz sort of getting bested a bit here by the team. You can see it's all of a sudden not exactly going the way they thought it would. They might have thought this was going to be a quick and easy fight, but hey, again, there's a reason Doxy avoids Doxy, and Ego Ruins here is very much consistent on the day. They're playing excellent Fortnite and realistically putting up a showcase here of their talents.
Yeah, and even more so, I gotta agree with you, because if you look at this game compared to some of the other games we've seen, 76 players up. I want to say it was maybe last game, the game before, we had 90 at this point in time, maybe 85. Surge was stacked going into the 4th and 5th zones. So a little bit more of accelerated plays, but you can kind of see what's really at stake. There's not a lot of time to start to capture all of those points and try to move up the leaderboard. So your teams take more and more of that risk, and sometimes it's what's necessary if you don't want to go through that LCQ.
Yeah, LCQ is going to be really tough. Pretty drastic changes to the competitive year for all the players involved. Again, this is the only FNCS major chance shot they got right now. But take a look at Ritual, Cold. Again, if you just put that game one behind them, they've played some pretty exceptional Fortnite so far here. Still carrying those same loadouts too. It's just rinse and repeat for them right now. This is just sharpening the blade here game after game. Yamzo and Josh, it's a little bit of a dynamic wonky land for them. They don't normally have a duo here to fight. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah, Atlas and Logan got their spot taken throughout the course of this tournament. The shoreline near Cluster Coast, and now they got themselves in a pickle here in game number 4. Logan's already down. Atlas stuck in a 1v2 situation. And you even got Josh and Iamza with control over the mending machine. See how many extra heals they do have here. They're not necessarily forced to move out until around the 5th zone when they start taking that 2-tick. But with Atlas still being there, they don't want to take too many risks. They do have some extra gold as a just in case. They have a different mending machine. So they're going to go ahead and minimize the amount of risk that they're taking here and just start to rotate on out. They're not too far away from the zone, but they know this continue to pull further.
Yeah, definitely. Got a little bit of their hands dirty there. Smarter play to definitely disengage here. No, they're on the bubble, right? Like, they're a team that haven't quite put up the performance like you see from Muzz's points there, so they still have a little bit more work to do.
Evan and Gary, 20 points. It won't be far out of reach if they can kind of land themselves around a second place. That'll give them a 50-point boost. Kind of give themselves a shot with a back-to-back second. So Glizzy, Evan, they're not in the worst position possible, but for taking shots like that, those options are definitely being torn away as Muzz and Rise, Noah plays, and Kaz's. Muzz looked like he took a big shot, but as we see the numbers for Storm Surge, 371 above the damage threshold. You can go ahead and be okay with that happening here, but you cannot let that happen one too many times.
Yeah, most definitely not. This is a tough fight for Noah Plays and Kaz. Obviously, they don't know that it's Muzz on the other side of the barrel. So danger has never been closer for them right now. And realistically, Muzz and Rise have nothing to lose right now. They can kind of take their practice any which way they want. If they want to continue to work for endgames, they could do that. If they want to say, hey, let's play for the refresh, they could just have fun and make that happen as well. So Noah and Kaz have to bust a move here ASAP. Where things go south.
It's where the risks are in. Looks like they're going to try to use those shock waves, but with Muzz and Rise being positioned above, Noah and Kaz probably feel like they have to wait for Muzz and Rise to rotate out. Otherwise, they're going to rotate with that shock wave and possibly get tagged up just a little bit. Muzz already making his way on out. Maybe just trying to get them to lose track or lose sight of where Rise is at. That can give them a little bit of a sneak advantage there, but timing is definitely of the essence. As of now, it is a 2-tick per second inside of the zone, and once we move to the 6th one, it is going to be a 5-tick, and we've seen so many teams throughout the course of the day just get eaten alive by the zone.
Yeah, this is a good zone pill right now for JoJo and Aoxy right here. They find themselves right on the edge. Not much to worry about. One good end game here, and they'll most certainly have enough points for a qual spot. Might be locking one of those spots up here for the last game.
Zone opening up towards the north side, so everybody on the south has to start their journey. Some having a little bit easier. Kuos and Latino Logic, 25 points, 500 damage above the threshold. Connected with another shot right there onto the solo. So they really have decisions. They could wait for Yan, try to get an elimination, 3 more points, but then they will fall behind the curve as the zone continues to open up towards the north side of the map. So they do make the heads-up play. Just try to get there first. They can look back when the time comes.
Yeah, Kugo's Logic here doing a great job rotating. Not taking any risk here, checking all the bushes on the way as well. It's very textbook right now. And although the teams have seen the play out, just how much they could do here. Meanwhile, there's several teams in the storm, so Logic's got to be careful right now, and I think he might have caught a whiff. Yes, he recognizes there's someone out there. It's just a solo. Not sure what's happening there. He gets knocked. Actually, it's the duo of Claps here to the right.
Yeah, even though he was able to make it inside of the zone, everybody sees him as a solo. Looking back, multiple teams making their way on over, but it looks like Magma and Boyd getting the best of that exchange. 2 eliminations, getting majority of the loot. Remember, coming into this game, it was 97 points was that last place spot in terms of consistency. Throughout the course of this game, they're kind of inching their way up. 91 points with those 2 eliminations, 196 above the damage threshold. So as long as they don't take too much damage on this next rotation and maybe land a couple of shots, they should be well off in terms of Storm Surge.
Yeah, they're definitely putting up the points right now. Doing very well to stay relevant and remain in the race here. Meanwhile, a little bit of armor falling here from Muzz as we've lost Rise. Muzz bit of a tough spot to be in, only 52 above as well.
And it's going to be a long time before the Storm Surge is no longer a thing in this lobby. Currently at 65 players left alive. It does not turn off until 40 players or less are left in the lobby. So it's going to be a long journey for Muzz. No extra heals, no shockwaves to close the gap. Does have the 7 power boots, so he's just trying to make his way on over very, very quickly. You can see Storm Surge going up and down without him shooting a shot. To me, Monster, that just tells me the lobby is getting active. Other players that might have been above him on the leaderboard were also taking damage, which pushes Muzz forward.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, Muzz is, you know, kind of put himself in a pretty strong position here. He's got a little bit of high ground. He's on the outskirts. Other teams are going to have to follow his path in here shortly, so I think it's going to work out well for him. Meanwhile, Cold and Ritual, they've kind of held themselves here to the edge as well, trying to see if they have anyone dropping some late rotates right now. 31 teams remaining, so still several more to go before this ends up slowing things down and the surge turns off. Placing points are right around the corner as well. Meanwhile, look at the high ground, Okus and Zonda. If you guys watched that reaction from the Webster win, that was one of the best. I think that's going to be a highlight for the year for sure. Timestamp it, throw it in the rewind. But next up could be Okus's moment.
I was about to say the exact thing. Can you imagine a world we get Okus and Webster qualifying to the grand finals in the same heat? That's a world I'd definitely be okay living in, but Cold and Ritual only 100 above that damage threshold. That's not too far from turning off with 14 players needing to go down, but this is giving me very, very familiar feelings of Game 1, where they weren't able to answer the call, but now they're kind of motivated. They've caught fire. 108, not too much to deal with, especially with somebody trying to burst those shots through the box.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good for themselves. 3 elims right now. Can't be upset at that, especially as we're getting into this endgame. Okus and Zonda with the early big shocks here, position themselves up on some old builds as well. Go for the full commit here. And now look at this, 400 above, about halfway through the material count, enough ammo in the chamber. And this could be the big game that, if nothing else, puts them in the race for consistency points. However, a win here and now will be the easiest way for them to go to finals, because they have a long way to go if they're going to fight for just placement points.
Definitely don't want to have to go through the next game and have to do it again, but Yamso and Josh get the doubles over the top, the drop on the first one, and just not getting too greedy on that decision. And it's just one of those things that Yamso and Josh are known for in a lot of these finals lobbies, just not getting greedy, knowing when to pull back. But for Slepsy and Donnie, they can no longer pull back. 109 below the damage threshold. They have it down right in front. Shots are going to continue to connect, but they're only 44 below. Even one below, you take that 25 damage, but a couple seconds later, rotating through the sky, they connect with a couple more shots to get them 112 above the damage threshold.
Yeah, Slepsy might have literally just been the clutch right there. A huge shotgun shot on the shockwave across. Keeps them from being pressured down, and Donnie gets a couple tags as well. And look at this, they actually connect with one another right now. And although Donnie's down to 1 HP, Slepsy tries to take the lead here. Off the shockwave to the front, gets another refresh, not by his elims, but someone else. And just like that, they're at cap material here. Donnie finds himself a little chug, so he's got enough to get back in the game. Jumping on over to Ritual and Cold. They've situated themselves sort of in the low and mid layers, but there's teams everywhere.
Yeah, Ritual, Cold, they were one of the teams right now that benefited from the rest of the lobby getting eliminations. It turned off Storm Surge because they were below that damage threshold. Yamso Josh got another one, but you see who that is on high ground, Okus and Zonda, but you cannot forget right below them, a Yaxi and Jojo Fishy. Their team that is a threat to try to steal the high ground. There's a few in this lobby, so hopefully Okus and Zonda don't get caught slipping. The solo shocks coming out, once again, just trying to maintain their presence on the high ground. From their builds to the cube, they're making sure to connect and give no chances for anybody to use their own shockwaves and steal it away.
They're doing a good job shockwaving from, you know, front side to backside to front side. Really doing a good job conserving what little bit of material that they went to high ground with. And honestly, if Cold and Ritual keep turning things up on the low ground, this is going to be perfect for them up top, right? Because they don't have to worry about these types of players focusing up for the win right now.
Yeah, especially when Cold, Ritual, they don't have a lot of mats to contest the high ground. Neither does Threats and Visuals, so everybody's just stuck down below in the mud. Hopefully it's not quicksand right now as Threats and Visuals dodge a bullet there. Just staying ahead of the zone, though. Even switching layers. They didn't want to mess with Moneymaker and Panayan.
And look at that, Zoe ends up falling to the hands of Nuts. So again, all these very strong duos are fighting each other down here on the low ground. Meanwhile, Okus and Zonda listening, watching the feed light up, and kind of coasting their way through here. All they have to do is keep the pressure up and keep the focus on the fights down low.
Yep, Panayan Moneymaker catching fire. Remember, it was around game 3. We saw it 6 points on one or another. And one game later, then 117 and counting, kind of keep themselves within contention of 2 different qualification scenarios. Jojo Fishy, same thing, Threats as well. But a lot of these teams high up on the leaderboard are now stuck as solos inside of the top 12. You got 5 of those solo players running around here, Monster.
Let's see it, Moneymaker. F9 starting to really heat up here. 6 elims, Cold, Ritual still at 4 right now. 30 mats to work with. Threats finds the elim onto Jojo Fishy. It's a small refresher. It's enough to keep him in the game here, but the tank running on E. Meanwhile, Cold and Ritual just looking for any opportunity to do something big right now. But they're forced to the low ground, and this is perfect. You have all these juggernaut duos fighting each other down low. Aiden finds one. Ritual is gonna fall there. Cold clutches up. He swings around the outside. And Jacob, this is going perfect for Okus.
Even Moneymaker and Panayan at the bottom getting a shot. Cold is literally just ending dreams here. A chance to win, but Cold is just shutting it down. 5 eliminations. Luckily for everybody else in the lobby, he's finally ran out of builds, but now he's trying to attack from the backside of the zone, but he ends up with a blocked path there on that tarp. Shockwave's coming out. He's quickly running out of options, which is a blessing for Zonda and Okus here. 3 eliminations, Monster. Nobody has a chance to look up.
That tree might have saved Zonda and Okus right there from Cold going for high ground and grief in their game. Now, Zonda and Okus actually have a chance here. They jump down. He's only got 3 mats to work with. It's a duo versus solos down low. It's a 2v1 now. Okus and Zonda might be putting it all together here, Jacob. Who would have thought the story would be going this way? But they say the universe has a weird way of picking the most interesting outcomes. But here it is. It's all up to Zonda, all up to Okus. They go for the pinch. They take the wall from the side. And HQ fires first.
That's going to be tough right now for HQ to survive. He's going to go down. Okus and Zonda. I don't know what multiverse we're living in right now, Monster, but welcome to the grand finals for Okus. This has to feel amazing, taking a little bit of a break from Fortnite and coming back like a bear surviving winter. He is a beast.
Back like he never left, is straight to the finals as well. Talk about talent. And just like that, Okus and Zonda do it there for game number 4. Zeke, talk about keeping it interesting.
FTF, Jacob, that is an understatement. Okus and Zonda get themselves the victory royale. They are going straight to next weekend's finals. I cannot believe what I am seeing right now, man. That's crazy.
I mean, listen, Okus responded to the call of duty that we all hear in our hearts, showing up in game number 4 right now. And we could see through their points that they did not have enough to really confidently put them in the top 15 for the end game. So right now, this was when they needed to pull out a win, and that is what we saw, Vivid.
Just about a month ago, June 25th was actually the day. I went ahead and checked, in which Okus went ahead and announced that he would be returning to Fortnite competitive for the time being. How in the world has this guy returned, and with just a month of practice, to not only find a teammate, but also have the time, just a month. All these other duos, all these other players have been competing, have been scrimming for all the time that he was actually gone away. But just a month is what it required for Okus to kind of jump back into the scene and go ahead and qualify to an FNCS finals. And it was all done from the higher ground, Kelly. Incredible work.
And you could see that they had that Mythic Warforged, obviously that assault rifle with the increasing fire rate. It's definitely going to give them just a little bit of a boon. But they played that high ground really well. They played it safe. And although it looked like there was so much chaos on the low ground, they played that well too. You're allowed to play these kind of solo wood builds if everything is just super distracting on the low ground. And that's exactly how they played it. Big shout outs to Okus and Zonda. Can't wait to see them next week in the grand finals.
So crazy. I cannot believe this is like insane. Amazing. Okay, Fortnite fam, One game left to go out of heat number 1. Now is the time to get a VR, or we need to end in the top 10 to make it through to next weekend's finals. Now's the time to go find the bathroom, go grab a snack, refill on water, come right back for this final game before we say goodbye. My strength is through the roof. I'll see you guys in a sec. Oh, man. Fortnite fam, welcome back to the FNCS. We just wrapped up game number 4, where Okus and Xanda got themselves a victory royale and are now moving on to finals. I cannot believe what happened. I had to tune in to Bucky's stream to see him go crazy. Shout outs to Levin, nothing but Fortnite, his fantasy league. If you've chosen Okus, you're big up on points right now. You're big up on points. My gosh. But friends, we've only got one game left to go out of heat number 1. Again, we want to try and qualify here. The last chance lobby, very difficult to qualify, much smaller window. Now is the time. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Again, reminder, we need a victory royale, or we need to end the day in the top 10 of consistency. So just imagine kind of like the top 15 when we look at this board right here. Cold and Ritual, after these first 4 games, they are the ones on top leading the pack. They've got to feel really, really good now. Only a single game, Kelly, that's kind of a little bit of a questionable game. Everything else has looked like what I would expect out of Cold and Ritual.
100%. Besides that 34th place game, which is what you're inferring to, they have been in the top 5 every single game, and that is why they are at the top of our leaderboard right now with 208 points. I don't think that there is any concern that Cold and Ritual are going to be making their way to the grand finals, but of course, with this being the last game, and with it being Ritual and Cold being regarded as one of the best fraggers in the world, is just he would play the game a little bit more. You would have to wonder, do they want to make this statement? Do they want to go for the win? Or, Vivid, are they just going to be playing how they've been playing the whole day?
Just incredible work there. And by the way, remember when we took a look at it after game number 3 where Josh had the most individual eliminations there? Well, now it's actually going to be Cold up top with 12 total. He's actually going to be tied for first place with individual eliminations with H-Cube. So 2 players up there with 12 eliminations. Crazy work from Cold to go ahead and just kind of keep his team in it here between Cold and Ritual. But that being said, remember, guys, we have to be top 10 on consistency, which means about top 15. If we go ahead and take a look at this leaderboard, so Zeke, we have to go to page number 2 to see where that threshold currently lies.
Oh man, 123. Viv, Slepsy, and Donnie are currently holding that. 110 right behind them, Dolzer and Ishu. But look at some of these names, right? Moneymaker and F9. Moneymaker coming on over from EU, looking to compete here as well. Even look at 12th place, right? Josh and Iamzo. I mean, this is such a difficult place to be right now. With a single game left to go, Kelly, we cannot make a mistake, right? If we are on the bubble or right on the edge of it, we need to make sure we put points on the board in this game.
I mean, in the opposite sense of how confident I feel about Ritual and Cold right now, Josh and Iamzo have kind of been ping-ponging back from placing really well and making it into the top 10 to kind of placing, you know, falling in the mid-ground or the middle game. So to see them in this final game right now with only 150 points, just a few placements away from reaching that cusp, I would love to go into this being like, oh, it's Josh and Iamzo. Of course they're going to come in on top, but I'm just not certain about it. And that makes me feel so guilty because I would love to just go into this confidently being like, oh, of course they're going to come in on top. But if you look at some of the other teams that are also within that bubble, I mean, you have people like Void and Magma that have been doing well. We already talked about Dolzer and Ishu. Angel and Aloe have been a part of the community for a really long time. There's a lot of names out there, these kind of tier 2, tier 3 teams that have gone through the heats and broken into the grand finals. So I don't know. I'm like 90% confident, Vivid, that Iamzo and Josh will go through, but there's still that 10%.
Yep, exactly. We have no idea what the threshold is actually going to be, but it's a similar situation for Moneymaker and F9, right? Just 7 points behind them with 143. That being said, Moneymaker and F9 on the second half of the day, I mean, they're actually playing incredibly well. I'm going to go ahead and break down their match history right now. The first game, they got 50th place. They got last place with 1 elimination. The second game, they got 27th place with 0 eliminations. So they were having a rough go at it the first 2 games. Games 3 and game 4, though, they clutched up. They got 2nd and 4th place in these last 2 games. So they've kind of figured something out. They're starting to play well, and kind of going into this last game, they needed to do exactly that. 143 points. Again, that's around what we kind of thought it would be just based off of major number 1, but you have no idea what's going to kind of happen on the leaderboard to kind of distribute some of these points.
Vivid, I'm so nervous. I can't lie. Classic me right now. Final game of heat number 1. I'm so nervous, man. So many of these teams, again, are on the bubble or outside of the bubble. They need to break in one single game. And remember, Fortnite fam, if someone in that top 10 gets a victory out, right? Let's say it's Cold and Ritual. That means we're pulling the whole leaderboard up 1. So many different things could happen out of just this one game. Here we go. Game number 5 of Heat 1. Casters, over to you.
We are here. It's the last game of the day, Monster. Our gladiators in today's arena have been putting on a show. As it stands, that 130 or so points is the mark to beat when it comes to grand finals.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? Zeke made a great point. You are really wishing Ritual and Cold take this win if you want to kind of ease your way in through consistency, because they have so many points. They've amassed so much. They've had a great performance thus far. And with 5 short games, these tournaments, Jacob, go by so fast. So here we go. Let's jump on the battle bus one more time.
We are here, game 5, the last chance anybody has in Heat 1 to make it to the grand finals. We have teams that literally need to do nothing. They're already there. They have enough points. We have teams that need to do just a little bit, stay alive in some of these games. And then we have teams that only option is a victory royale. If last game wasn't sped up fast enough, I feel like this game we're going to see a very, very quick game.
Yeah, you know, we were kind of hinting at, hey, this could be a 150-point threshold. It could go as high as 170 or so. It's looking like it might even exceed those thresholds right now. There are so many talented teams up at the top holding a significant amount of points. It's really going to come down to whether or not those consistent squads can pull through a victory royale or not, because that's going to determine everything here and now. And hey, ultimately, looking at the names on this list, like overall, there's going to be some pretty serious upsets missing the finals straight shot at this moment and be forced into the LCQ.
Yeah, and the LCQ doesn't get any easier either. You know, the play-ins was to Division 1 players. Now it's open Division 2, Division 3, every division, including the people that don't make it through here. And there's no leaderboard monster. It's just a straight victory royale once you're in the LCQ finals, and that's the only way to make it in. So this could be some good practice, especially if you don't find yourself in the grand finals going through LCQ. Maybe a second place will boost the confidence before you have to go ahead and face such a scenario.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, but first, you got to make it to endgame here to even see the light at the end of this tunnel. And it's dark for a lot of teams. Right now, Clap's going to go and be first to fall here. See Logan, Atlas getting the best of one, but go up to Atlas here. 1 HP for the opponent on the other side of the wall.
Okay, going a little bit longer than I thought. 1 HP,
I thought he was going to make that, and I'm like,
him.
it's going to come any second now. But there it is.
Another team, though, Aoxy and Jojo Fishy, they have been watching this fight all day long. We even seen them move into this fight in previous games. This time around, they're going to at least solidify one of those eliminations and take control of that mending machine. They know at least one player is around, but they don't know exactly where he's at. So they have all the time in the world, now that they cleaned up Latte Landing, to wait and see if Atlas shows himself.
Yeah, there's the scan. It's not looking good right now. He didn't even have any shields here, so unless he hits a monster shot to bail himself out, it's going to be wraps. But yeah, AOC, JoJo, they've just played exceptional Fortnite. You know, they're one of those teams that everyone else is hoping, you know, possibly takes a win if it's not going to be themselves. So just like that, again, just padding the numbers here, giving themselves some room to play with as they're going to go on to move to some key locations. Meanwhile, Power and Kaz, a bit of a standoff right now. Power going for the high ground retake, forcing Kaz down to the low ground. Kaz is just running for his life here. He doesn't want to take this one-on-one.
Yeah, most of the day, we really haven't seen these two teams clashing, even though they're both contesting Golden Grove. But this time around, with everything on the line, you want to get as much of that loot as possible, even more Surge. You're wondering how that's affect the 4 games previous so far, but no plays being backed up. Split up momentarily from his teammate, Penta and Power, same thing for them, but Pluto and Nip are now coming in, third-party potential to come crash this altercation.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know we were watching, you know, Power's perspective, but Kaz and Noah are actually the team with the higher points. You saw there, they're about 100 points in, so they have been playing relatively well. I think the last game was actually the first game that they kind of missed a mark a bit on pushing themselves further, so they've kind of found themselves in this weird position where they need a big end game. Just Noah's luck, he gets clapped pretty hard here, forced to defend himself, run off. Trying to find himself a little spot to hide here and get his shields going. Kaz comes back. No, he gets tagged first. Player jumps to the window. Oh, unfortunate.
Those are the moments you have to hit those shots. Kaz is with everything on the line, and the original team that were fighting Power and Penta are now lurking on back. Luckily, I will say Noah plays. He was able to disengage, create some distance, so the only people they would be lurking on is Pluto and Nip. But they haven't really made too much noise just yet, and they actually do see the team returning back over in this direction. Power shows himself probably a little bit too early, but you can see possibly why. No material, so he doesn't want to put himself in a bad situation with no way to block any shots.
Yeah, this is a tough spot to be in. Noah just listening nearby. He's going to have to play for the reboot card, but There's no way he goes back anytime soon right now. Penta and Power. The best thing that can happen right now is that Penta and Power actually best this other team, or at least they trade shots and do tons of damage to one another. If Noah wants a chance to get this rebuild card for free. Pluto still have somewhat of a lead here, but the material count's starting to gas out now.
Sure, it gets tough. They got to find a way back. That way they can kind of share some of their resource. But Penta going for a quick opportunity to try to box up his opponent. But that one goes right out the window. Power is scrambling to try to hit a shot onto Pluto as well. But he's the one who takes a haymaker. He's going to have to second guess that decision. With 0 builds, he's in a very, very tough spot. But instead of finishing the fight, Pluto just tries to bait him in, and it works. Pluto and Nip end up winning that fight and winning the rest of Golden Grove to themselves.
Yeah, very nice. Jumping back with 9 and Moneymaker though. Right. Big shot right there for Moneymaker to kick this one off, giving them a lot of momentum here. But look, they spent a lot of time lurking around the drops here. They have no ammo to work with, barely any material, but they do officially take control of this vending machine. But either way, it is not looking too good here. They are on a clock.
And another team is definitely knocking on that door. Magma's there. Just trying to push him in, whether it's for the actual eliminations to try to close the gap or access to that vending machine. Something we see all around different points in the game as Magma just trying to burst them out. Void is there, but Void hasn't jumped into the mix just yet. But I might have spoke too soon because now he's taking a different approach towards the top. Good damage landing onto Fnayan, forcing him to be out of position. And him and Moneymaker separated only for a short second, and that second is all you need to land some good damage.
This is one of the stronger duos in the lobby right now. If they fall, this is going to really open up and ease up the leaderboard consistency pressure that the rest of the lobby's sitting on right now. They're still at 143 points.
And the lowest so far it's been this year on NA is 145 points. So far in these games, it's been moving at a 32 point per game average. So even though they're rather close at 143, we just don't know where it's going to end up. There's still so many different scenarios that can break out. So I do think it's a great play for them to start to disengage. Whether they took more damage than they put out and they might be below the threshold, at least they're going to survive now to try to get that back.
They're right behind Zarus and Hefe there. You see that? Zarus actually panics, jumps off the zip line. That was a small misplay. And just like that, they get some free tags here. You know what? Moneymaker and Fnayan actually needed that as well, right? This is perfect for them to at least get a little bit more damage considering they traded so much back and forth with the other team there. Ishu gets knocked. That's a team that was obviously having, has that win in them potential. This is starting to get interesting here, Jacob.
No, it definitely is, because right now, with the struggle that Moneymaker and Fnayan are going in, Dozier and Ishu, they're outside of the bubble, but they're just so close. One decent game here can qualify them, but now they're just going to have to figure out a way back. As Fnayan and Moneymaker, they go back to their actual drop. They do have a vending machine. There is a ton of metal and brick that you can get in that building safely without any team just kind of jumping on you with a shockwave. Just only time will tell if they can pull themselves back into this.
This is crazy. If Ritual and Cold show up and save Dozier right now, he's actually going to have to count his lucky stars. Let's see it. They're going in with the shockwave. They're going to show up to the action here shortly. From the other perspective, JoJo gets crushed, and he's going to be the first target. Dozier, my friend, this is your one chance. You got to get out of here, son, or it's not going to be good. JoJo gets knocked. Golden Ritual finished the job there. Talk about a quick turn of events. Aoxy knows exactly what the deal is. He bails on his teammate. Dozier takes the slow and steady of approach to just hide this one out here.
Blessings do come in different shapes and sizes right there. And it's not necessarily the worst situation for Aoxy, because remember, early in the game, they have their split drop on that mountain, and they cleared out Latte landing. So it will not be hard for them to get both of them back in the game and possibly fight in shape. Yeah, luckily for them, though, luckily for Dozier, there's no mending machine here for them to grab that scanner. Instead, I'm not sure if they see or heard Jack in the distance. Shockwaves of their own. It gives out a ton of audio, but now his position has been revealed. I don't see his duo anywhere in sight other than the lobby, and Jack meets him right there.
What a pump fake as well. This is going to completely let their guard down. The odds that a random solo's rotating nearby, you know, for all they know, they're probably going to be thinking, hey, maybe that was him. Maybe there isn't anyone in the bag or in the box over there, and Dozer's got it in the bag. So he'll be able to be the first to also get the reboot card. Don't forget that, because, you know, with Oak falling there, Gemini just barely staying up, and then you have Jojo Fishy and Aoxy there. Aoxy's gone. He's going to have to work his way back to, of course, getting that reboot card.
If it all works out, though, there should be a decent amount of loot left behind, thanks to Cold and Ritual and the amount of eliminations they got all around that actual location. As we jump on board another team, 150 points, Josh and Yamzo. And this is a team, honestly, looking at all the superstars, how stacked Heat 3 can be. I thought they would be a shoo-in. I thought they would be in similar position on the leaderboard as, you know, Muzz and Rise, Ritual and Cold. But so far today, even though they're within qualification rank, I think they're playing underneath even their own standard. And what is this? Dozier, if he can get this elimination, this will be huge.
Oh, yeah. So look at this. He ends up obviously rotating out, rotates into a free Elim. That's important damage that he needs. Loot for his teammate now as he gets the reboot, and they are back in the race here. Now, do keep in mind, coming into this team was at 110 points in 16th place, so they are in the race to have a big game and potentially snipe a qual spot. But when you have players like Cold and Ritual just free to do what they want, that is a scary, scary sight, because, you know, they already recognize, hey, it's the last game. We've qualled. Let's just key everybody.
These are literally two mirrored situations. Cold, Ritual, Aoxy, and Jojo Fishy have all but enough points to where even if they go down here, they're likely still going to make it to the grand finals. On the other hand, though, Moneymaker, Fortnite, Dozer, Ishu, they're right there, almost in contention of missing out if they go down here. So these are like two different fights I would not want to see them in, especially against the competition that they're going against with nothing to lose on the other side. They know they're down there. The audio visuals, Fanian's healing with the med kit, so they know they are lurking around. It's just a matter of where exactly they're at.
Let's see how this is going to end up going. This is literally the tournament life right now. Ritual, the first to get the punishing shot here from Fernine down low, and, you know, they didn't take the time to cap their HP off, so they are very much behind on the health count here. Even Cold has to kind of slow things down, forced to heal himself a little bit. Moneymaker now is the one with the lowest HP, but Cold playing the bush here. He's got the advantage. Forced to kind of keep out of sight for now. Another team's rolled up nearby. You have 7 Ultra just outside, kind of listening to what's happening here. This can go any way right now, but 9 is on the clock here. HP's really low. Sneaks out the side, just barely there. Gets the med kit off.
But that's it for the heals. No more med kits, no more chug jugs. So they're 100% officially on a timer here in the 5th zone. 2 tick per. Big shot landing onto Cold, though. Ritual,
Cold is down.
34 HP. Cold is down. Moneymaker gets dropped. Fanayan gets eliminated. Ritual and Cold somehow, another miracle. They get the eliminations and potentially end the FNCS for Moneymaker and Fanayan.
They were so close, yet so far. Ritual just saw and got the right information from Cold to know where the players were. Take a look at it one more time. Recognizes the knock there, had already known that the player was to the side, and then flicks back and finishes the job. What an exceptional play for Ritual. And, you know, he didn't have to do all that, but Moneymaker and Fenine are now sent to the LCQ.
Hopefully they can go ahead and withstand as Rise gets the Elim right before going down. Unfortunately enough, he's not going to reap the reward of the actual siphon for the HP. But Muzz, there's some sort of footsteps nearby. That player is going to be underneath, but Muzz might not necessarily know that, might not have the information. So he's going to wait. Rise is going to go down. It is going to be a 5 tick per second inside of the zone, so there's no chance at the reboot unless it's coming later on in this game. But for Muzz and Rise, you got to give them a huge pat on the back for how well they've been playing today.
Yeah, most definitely has been one of the leading teams here. Every game, you know, they've showed up to endgame and been the most consistent, that's for sure. So near perfect play. Cold and Ritual now at 4 eliminations. even through all that aggression, the teams they fought have been such quality duos that they only have 4 elims, right? You would think they would have more with how active they've been, and normally it would be that case, but they've taken out some key individuals.
Kind of easing up the pressure for the rest of the lobby. Both those that are inside of the bubble, like Yamzo and Josh, and those outside. For Yamzo and Josh, it's a very, very important game. They don't necessarily need to win by any means, Monster. They just need to get enough points to feel comfortable that they make it into the top 10 in terms of consistency. At 153, you got to imagine they are so close with that one elimination in their spot as well. Good spot inside of the zone. So for Yamzo and Josh, very little to do other than wait to see where it pulls.
They don't have too much to worry about now that Moneymaker and F9 are actually out. I'm more curious, like, where's Clixie, where's Aiden, you know, how's Nut and CDZ doing, right? Like, what are those other teams on the bubble? How are their games looking? Because Yamzo and Josh look pretty well set up, like, all things considering. They have a lot of material. They have pulled that zone pretty favorably. But now everyone's going to have to move here. Buzz is going to be one of the first to actually get the safe zone here. Might turn this into a little high ground. Let's see it.
Waiting for the perfect moment to chop it. Here's it come in. Shockwave's out to safety. Repositions himself just a little bit closer towards the zone. And in this spot where he can break in that wall, have a little extra cover. So he doesn't have to worry about much, but he has to worry about Slepsy and Donnie. That's going to be the main focal point for him. They're so close. If they see Muzz as a solo, they're going to get the green light to go.
Nice little shots being put on the edge of the lobby here. Good pressure coming in for Yamzo and Josh. Any points here are going to be absolutely welcome. There's another 3. Next teams to fall start rewarding placement points to the whole lobby here. This is the critical moment of the game here. Get yourself in a position to start earning these major placement points, and you're in to the finals. There's that immediate competition I was talking about. Clixie and Aiden there in the distance.
Yeah, right now it doesn't seem like anybody even really feels safe outside of a few. I see Yamzo and Josh picking up that elimination again onto Pluto. 3 more points for them, adding a little bit more to that Storm Surge total. But not jumping over rather quickly to try to get that loot. They probably feel confident enough with what they have already. A CDZ and Nut find another elimination. 2 overall, 300 above as they move into 400. See Aoxy go down in the distance. Not sure if Jojo Fishy, yes, see the feed now. They are eliminated out of this game, Monster. So honestly, a few of our teams that are inside of the bubble have already been eliminated.
Well, there you have it with Aoxy and Jojo Fishy officially fallen now. That's a spot that's going to become available here. As again, the bulk of the points hasn't even been dished out to the lobby. Cold gets knocked there. As I see the feed starting to light up there too. And that's going to change things a fair bit. You start to think about it, because that's one less major team that might set up for the win. So the likelihood of the positionings on the leaderboard kind of playing into the favor of the teams that are out of the money is a little bit harder now. So it's going to be more heartbreak in sight. Doxy, Ruins going back for high ground. It's the second time we've seen them try to go for a big play here.
Now, hopefully this time around it does pay off for them. Just have to be very careful, because we know, and we've seen it already today, Shockwaves late in this game, when you've expended so much material trying to hold height, could be the difference maker. Muzz staying alive on the outer edge, but Zone pushing him forward. Seeing Donnie and Slepsy trying to have a miracle here. 134 points and counting. Well off with the Chug Jug. Material loadout. Everything looking good. And they're already in zone trying to push teams out. They get that elimination on Zaris. 3 more points for them, inching themselves closer to qualification.
Super important points being earned here. How is Muzz still standing, by the way? Just playing the thorn in everyone's side right now. Little double edit right there, but doesn't quite find the one that he needs. Magma gets the exchange there. Meanwhile, Doxy and Ruin still running things from the high ground. Nut and CDZ are still standing, though. Again, this is a huge problem for Yamzo. There you go. These gonna get that nice elimination there to the hands of Josh. So they're just taking this one into their own hands right now. 177 for them. They're in the money here. They just have to stay alive now and hold it.
Definitely have the chances here. Got to imagine they could potentially already be qualified, but they want to make sure leave no chances and leave no stones unturned, but they get to the front side of zone. Both of them immediately start healing up. They have a lot of space to work with and immediately putting it to use. They get the down onto one, get the double onto Pikes as well. That's their 5th elimination of this game, but Zoe under pressure, getting dropped to 30 HP, another tick of the zone. It's not easy for him to survive, but he's figuring out a way to make it work.
This is it.
That's the type of performance they needed here to push themselves across the finish line, and now they're knocking on the 200-point threshold door. Meanwhile, Ruins and Doxy still have a lot of work to put in. They give up the high ground momentarily to go down for a refresh, and it pays off as they find one. But who is the new Kings up top? Well, either way, they come down a knock and kick down the doors, and just like that, another fight here breaks out for the high ground. It's sure, it's Kyle.
Realize I need a victory royale. What are the best chances to do it? Go for high ground. Dole's here, 156 on the line. Not sure if this is enough, but he is making a solo run look possible. You're seeing how close different teams and players are on that line. 201. HQ needs to get on out. He has some of the most damage in the lobby as of now, and he's going to be able to survive one. Iamzo's going to get dropped. Josh goes down. HQ and Flex out of nowhere are able to take down the bros from Elite.
Definitely, and look at this, Dozer, Ishu still holding on, 163, but no, just like that, their tournament run has come to an end, and it's unlikely that that's going to be enough. The threshold seems to have been pushed a little bit further. It's going to come down to the window. Sleepsy and Donnie are at 173 here too. They are really fighting their way up, trying to take a qual spot from someone. There's going to be some huge upsets by the end of this.
Yeah, 3 full duos left alive. Well, make that 2 with one of them going out. More solos join into the mix. 2v1-1 situation. HQ down below with Flex. That's the only other duo left in this game. 282 points. Wow. If HQ and Flex win this, their spot opens up at the bottom. Slepsy and Donnie, they could potentially still be fighting for consistency alone. So this one means everything here for Donnie and Slepsy, and he finds a shot with his teammate going down. Donnie again! From trios to duos. Call this man the clutch machine.
You know, we've seen him do it before in more of the LCQ settings, but again, punching his way through he's just showing us progression as he's pushing his way through the tournament stages here, Jacob. Good game for them, and they played exceptionally well in that last one.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see where the point thresholds lie at the end of the day. Zeke, Kelly, Vivid, we all must know.
Oh, it just takes me back, Jacob. It really does. It takes me back to when we saw Donnie clutch. I just cannot believe it. First off, really quick, MDF, Jacob, awesome cast as always. Congratulations to Slepsy, Donnie, the victory royale in game number 5. And this is a situation, you know, when we need that victory royale, when we need to make something happen because we're right on the edge of the bubble. We're trying to make sure, hey, we need the points, but everyone else is doing it like they were on the bubble. They came into this in 15th place at 123 points, right? We saw that coming into that game, and now they don't have to worry, right? Now it's a victory royale, and what's interesting, we'll look at that later, is that some other teams might have also been pulled up. More on that later, but still, congratulations to them.
Yeah, congratulations to Slepsy and Donnie right here, forming up just in week number 4 for the season 3. And honestly, I didn't know that they were going to be able to make it through heats. They're a great team individually. I've seen them be able to perform by themselves, but as a duo, I just wasn't certain. But Vivid, obviously, they've proven us not just in this game, but in previous games as well, that they're able to make it to the end game, grab a few eliminations, and prove themselves. And that's why we're going to be seeing them in the grand finals.
Not a single team is out until you go down in that last game, which is why we love this format so much. A great clutch there out of the duo. Donnie making it happen there towards the end of it. Incredible stuff here in heat number 1.
Absolutely, Viv. Absolutely. That's just heat number 1. Don't forget 2 more heats, 2 tomorrow, 3 on Sunday. Okay. Let's take a look at this graphic. We got your winners lined up. Maybe you're just tuning in. Maybe you've been like, I've been out, you know, and about doing whatever. Well, these are some of the winners out of the previous games. They got themselves the victory royales, which means they went straight through on finals in the game that they did it. They did not need to play more Fortnite after that point. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about that top 10, Zeke? Well, who made it in? Zeke to me. I got you. There's like an order of operations. We got the graphics lined up. Let's take a look at the leaderboard and see what what happened? We knew there was a couple teams that they needed to make it through. Happy to report, 9th place, Iamzo, Josh, they're in, right? That's great. We knew they were kind of on the edge, but on the inside, and now they have confirmed their spot. They're going through the finals. Obviously, Ritual and Cole, we saw them all along. They were performing well. A little sneaky, I guess, last-minute replacement here. HCube and Flex showing up with 282 points, Kelly. What?
Yeah, 100% a team that we kind of like overlooked. I've seen Flex a lot, and actually I do a lot of console tournament broadcasts, and I feel like I've seen his name there. So to see him with HCube up on the top of our leaderboard compared to players like Ritual and Cold, Muzz and Rise, so to see them up here being able to beat them out, like that is an incredibly impressive thing. Not only that, but they get a 3rd and 2 second places. I think a lot more people are going to be looking towards HCube and Flex to bring something to the grand finals.
We were swapping around to a lot of different duos in that end game, and I saw a bunch of 140s in the mix. Was it going to be enough? What did the threshold actually end up being? Who qualified through consistency? Let's go ahead and take a look, Zeke.
15th place, 161.
Ooh.
I want to draw your eye very quickly down to 18th place. Moneymaker, Fanayan. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. They will have to take it to the last chance lobby to look to fight their way back through to the finals. But for Nut right here in CDZ, they make it on through at 161. Some other names as well, Dolzer and Ishu, Aoxy and Jojo Fishy, Muzz and Rise there in 11th. Man, oh my, some of these names I'm not that surprised, right? Because it's like, okay, yeah, I expect that, but some of the, some of these other duos, they really showed up here. They really made sure, hey, when we need to make these points happen, we need to have these games. They made it, and now they're going to be taking that fight all the way to finals.
Well, especially looking to Dolger and Ishu that went up 2 placements in that last game. So they went from 16th to 14th. And that just shows how even if you're playing really well at the start of the game, which they did, they were consistently making it into the end game. Even in the final moment right there, you need to be playing your hearts out. You need to be doing everything you can because that could be the difference maker right there. But you know what, Vivid? It's Heat 1. Why not a little bit of smack talk? What's going on, EU? Why couldn't you guys win? Oh, is North America better than EU? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I guess an EU player won last time, but whatever.
And Kelly's got her fists up today, Zeke. She is going at everybody throughout the day. But listen, Heat number 1 delivered without a doubt. That's me very, very excited for the rest of the weekend. And I feel like the competition is going to be a little bit tighter than we maybe predicted. I mean, me and Kelly kept throwing around the number about 140. Ended up being 161 points. And if that is going to be a consecutive theme throughout the rest of these heats, all of these duos kind of gearing up for their play in their group stage respectively, they've got to be ready.
That's such a fantastic point, right, Viv? Tomorrow, Heat 2, they're going to take today, and they're going to, okay, what happened in Heat 1? Where were these players? And maybe I'm worried about where were they landing? What do their POIs look like? And now that's a pretty big number, right, Viv? 161 is a very high number considering the Heat situation. Guys, that wraps up Heat number 1. Fantastic day of Fortnite. Final thoughts before we start signing off and saying goodbye.
I'm excited for tomorrow, and obviously Sunday is going to be incredibly exciting. I feel like we're going to get mini grand finals on Sunday, but thank you guys for joining us right now. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Make sure that you guys set your alarms for EU.
Listen, I can't believe how some of these end games are playing out. I don't know if we had a single end game go the full distance, right? Actually go ahead and close out that zone. These games are kind of ending short. A lot of action to be had and a lot of high ground to kind of play for, as it does look like a very favorable position, as we all know. But yes, Heat number 1 delivered. Very, very excited to kind of jump into the action on Saturday and Sunday.
Fantastic stuff, guys. Thank you so much. Again, Jacob and MDF, thank y'all as well from production. Huge thank you to you as well. That wraps up Heat number 1. Tomorrow we return. Don't forget, EU is before us. If you want to see more Fortnite action, tune in, see what they're up to, see how their Heat goes, and then come right back here tomorrow for Heat number 2. Until then, we love you. Keep yourself safe, and we'll see you on that battle bus.
Beep, beep.
consent, so you'll consent to give it 100%. Cause I'm a beast, so lower your head. I rise, I ascend. Say you want it all, if you want it all. Make a move, don't stop and wonder. Gotta take it out, cause I want it all. Don't stumble, I'll keep bouncing back. Take a step, cause I've been bouncing back. Yeah, I'm bouncing back. Yeah, I'm bouncing back. I keep coming back. I can't hold it back. Yeah, I'm bouncing back. It's just a mission. I do them in my sleep, no commission. I like a side quest of opposition. With surgical precision, they make losing their tradition. Yeah, they talk, but what they say to me, I'm chewing it all, straight in my jaw, the way that it hurts you to think. I'm building a wall, 90s tall between you and me. I'm out of space, you're out of peace. It's a different game when I'm out of your league. Say you want it all, if you want it all. Make a move, don't stop and wonder. Gotta take it out, cause I want it all. Don't stumble, I'll keep bouncing back. Take your cap, take a step, cause I've been back. Oh, just like that, I reach you in, crank up back too fast. Oh, just like that, I see a dub in my future stats. Oh, I know a place you can go. The doghouse outside my massive abode. It's lovely, it's cushy,